Chapter 1427. One cannot be Tang Bohu, one must be Wang Mingwen, Chu Yang secretly said in his heart. He hoped that in this life, he would no longer be burdened by the word pride. Suffering a little setback, he would not have fun anymore, thinking that the whole world had let him down. If he was like that, he did not have Tang Bohu's level of talent, abandoning all restraint and living a drunken life. Ha ha. He suddenly could not help but laugh out loud. Not refining golden pills, not meditating, not working as a merchant, not plowing the fields, writing a painting to sell when you are free, not making evil money in the world. Sage Nirvana, is this your choice? Chu Yang's sudden laughter made Xiong Longxiang and the rest somewhat confused. He also did not explain. This was Tang Bohu's poem. The carefreeness in it vividly displayed Tang Bohu's pride. Wang Yangming also wrote a poem before. Dangerous planes are not stagnant in the chest. What is the difference between floating clouds in space? At night, the sea waves are 30,000 miles, the moon is flying under the tin wind. Prosperity or adversity, all are like floating clouds in the sky. Sailing on the 30,000-mile sea is like riding a monk's staff and riding the wind, as delightful as galloping down from the top of a mountain. The two people's structure and realm, from the two poems, superiority and inferiority was immediately determined. If Chu Yang was the sovereign king now, then Sage Nirvana's current situation could also be said to be Tang Bohu or Wang Mingwen. It just depended on whether he wanted to be Tang Bohu or Wang Mingwen. To be honest, Chu Yang was now somewhat curious about Sage Nirvana's choice. Of course, Sage Nirvana and Tang Bohu's situation was only somewhat similar, but not the same. Otherwise, Chu Yang might be able to clearly know how many people fell for this word pride. I'm willing to submit. Time was very short for Chu Yang, but it was incomparably long for Sage Nirvana. After saying that, Sage Nirvana knelt down towards Chu Yang and handed over his soul imprint. I'm a little surprised by your choice. This was the truth. Chu Yang was indeed somewhat surprised. He did not know the process of Sage Nirvana's choice in his heart. To be precise, he now somewhat admired Sage Nirvana. To be able to put down his dignity and pride, this was absolutely not easy. I just don't want to die. This answer made Chu Yang slightly stunned, and then he laughed involuntarily. So what if he handed over the soul imprint? As long as he was alive, there was still hope for him to break free from the shackles. Only a fool would think that this was the end of the world and that there was nothing left to live for. Ha ha. Chu Yang laughed heartily once again and said to Sage Nirvana, Sage Nirvana, you have used your actions today to teach me a good lesson. You must have an unyielding backbone, but don't be so arrogant. With that, he looked at Liu Yunpeng and Xia Wanjin. I'm also very curious about your choices. Let me see if you're dragons or worms. It was as if a hot potato had been handed to Liu Yunpeng and Xia Wanjin. Xiong Longxiang and the others all looked at the two of them, waiting for them to make a decision. Liu Yunpeng's answer surprised everyone, including Chu Yang. Chu Yang, if you want me to surrender, you must at least convince me. He pointed at Chu Yang and provoked, do you dare to fight me head-on? Do you dare to fight me head-on? If I lose to you, I will naturally have nothing to say and will surrender. Liu Yunpeng was still questioning Chu Yang's strength and talent. His pride did not allow him to surrender to a mediocre person. As for the so-called head-on battle, the implication was that Chu Yang should not launch a sneak attack. He should not use the method that Chu Yang used to deal with the Soul Fusion Sage and the Aspect Sage. To be exact, Liu Yunpeng wanted Chu Yang to fight with him with his cultivation at the 9th level of the Spirit Stage. If Chu Yang could defeat him, then why wouldn't he surrender to such a person? This was Liu Yunpeng's true intention. In an instant, the ball was in Chu Yang's court. Would Chu Yang agree to Liu Yunpeng's provocation? Chapter 1428. In the silence, Chu Yang looked at the expectant gazes and couldn't help but laugh. Ha ha. He looked at Xiong Longxiang and the others. You want to see if I'm qualified to be your master, right? Fine, I'll fulfill your wish. I'll let you see what kind of person I, Chu Yang, am. To make people submit, one must have the corresponding strength. Chu Yang naturally understood this principle. He was still confident in dealing with Liu Yunpeng, so he might as well let them see, lest they were dissatisfied and play tricks behind his back. He even clearly sensed that Xiong Longxiang and the others were all delighted after he accepted Liu Yunpeng's challenge. Ha ha! Liu Yunpeng's long hair fluttered in the wind, and his fighting spirit was high. He laughed loudly. Wild dog, you're arrogant enough. Let me see how capable you are. Chu Yang sneered. Liu Yunpeng, I'll allow you to do whatever you want now, but if you dare to be disrespectful to me after losing to me, I'll definitely kill you and destroy your 3 spiritual and 7 physical soul. After that, he said to Xie Wanjin, what about you? But what about Liu Yunpeng's choice? You'd better make it clear, or I don't mind killing you first. Same. Xie Wanjin's eyes suddenly emitted 2 beams of golden light. They were like 2 divine weapons as they fiercely stared at Chu Yang. They were extremely sharp. As long as you can convince me wholeheartedly and prove that you are qualified to be my master, what harm is there in submitting to you? Good, haha. Chu Yang laughed again. Great, then it's settled. He wasn't the least bit worried that Liu Yunpeng and Xie Wanjin would go back on their word. If they did, he could just kill them. Wild dog, if no one watches the battle between you and me, no one will know the outcome. It'll be like walking in the night. Do you dare to fight in front of others? Liu Yunpeng provoked again. Hee. Chu Yang laughed. It's time for me to show some of my skills. Otherwise, there will be a lot of trouble. Because of this, I will satisfy you. After a pause, he laughed out loud and said, I'll fight with you. I'll let everyone in the Sky Academy see how powerful I am. Wild dog, cut the nonsense. Otherwise, you'll look bad if you die in my hands. Liu Yunpeng's cold eyes swept over. As long as you have the ability to make me regret. Chu Yang sneered and then mocked, kneel down in front of others and call me master. I wonder if you can bear it when the time comes. Can you do it? Don't worry, I can do what I say. Liu Yunpeng's eyes were filled with aggression. He sneered and said, Wild dog, this will be your stupidest decision. I will personally cut off your path to life and destroy your soul. I will make you die until you can't die anymore. Chu Yang didn't bother to bicker with him. He said directly, lead the way. Let's go to the place you're satisfied with. Humph. Liu Yunpeng sneered and said to Xie Wanjin and the others, Gentlemen, come with me to see my might, see how I defeat the wild dogs. How can we miss such a battle? Xie Wanjin said, Liu Yunpeng, choose a good place. If you can't do it, I'll do it. At that time, don't make me feel that no one wants to see my power. The Nirvana sage also said, I'm also looking forward to this battle. I want to see if my choice is wrong. The soul melting sage and the Fa Xiong sage also nodded. In fact, they also wanted to know whether Chu Yang was qualified to be their master. Xiong Longxiang laughed. I can't wait for this battle. I can't wait. Then come with me. Today, I'll kill Wild Dog and show it to you. Liu Yunpeng's hair fluttered in the wind, revealing his killing intent. Chapter 1429. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. In an instant, all of them broke through the air. As soon as they left the Cave of Frost and arrived outside the Land of Frost, they immediately attracted the attention of many people. The fact that Chu Yang had returned was a huge surprise in itself. So, the people who saw him were very astonished. Among this group, there were Sage Merged Soul, Sage Dharma Aspect, and Sage Nirvana. Liu Yunpeng, Xie Wanjin, and Xiong Longxiang were all people who attracted attention. Moreover, the 3 of them were with Chu Yang. Therefore, there was no need to say more. Chu Yang's group was very fast. In a short time, they arrived at the center of the Land of Frost. Below them was a verdant and lush forest. Ancient trees towered into the sky, and majestic mountain ranges rose and fell. Am I seeing things? Isn't that Chu Yang? Didn't Chu Yang leave the Land of Frost? What's going on? Is he back or did he not leave at all? Why is he with Xie Wanjin and Liu Yunpeng? Looks like something big is going to happen. Voices of surprise rose and fell. Many people unconsciously followed behind Chu Yang. At this time, Liu Yunpeng said, Everyone, I will fight with Wild Dog. If I lose, I will recognize him as my master. Please spread the news. Liu Yunpeng's voice was extremely loud and clear, echoing in all directions. After he finished speaking, he continued, I also have to trouble everyone to send someone out to inform the people outside. I will let you see who is stronger between me, Liu Yunpeng, and Wild Dog. Boom. Immediately, the crowd burst into an uproar and exclaimed, What? If Liu Yunpeng loses, he'll have to recognize Chu Yang as his master? What kind of agreement did Chu Yang and Liu Yunpeng reach? Or is this just a simple bet? If Liu Yunpeng is like this, what about Xia Wanjin and Xiong Longxiang? Why haven't I seen Xiao Chang'e? Could it be that Xiao Chang'e didn't participate in such a matter? Just by hearing these words, everyone had a lot of guesses. And such a thing naturally caused a stir in the entire Frostland. The students who were participating in the assessment in order to improve their marks gathered in the shortest time possible. However, the number of people was sparse, appearing to be very few. It could be said that Chu Yang's previous actions had indeed turned the world upside down, resulting in such an outcome. Amitabha. Hearing this voice, everyone saw a person approaching and immediately exclaimed, Little Zen Master Fa Zhao is here. How could little Zen Master Fa Zhao not come to such a battle? Not long after, a beautiful figure and a little lowly also flew over. Immediately, there was a burst of exclamations. Fairy Ji is here too. Speaking of Ji Yinmeng, everyone's feelings were a bit complicated. After being defeated by Chu Yang, such a fairy actually pestered Chu Yang and asked him to take responsibility. After hearing such a thing, many people's eyes fell to the ground. Among them, there were even many people who were envious and jealous. If they had known that they could get Fairy Ji in this way, they would have done it long ago. Unfortunately, they also had to have the ability to defeat Fairy Ji. Otherwise, not only would they not get the beauty, but they would also die in the hands of the beauty and become a great joke. They would be despised even after being buried in the ground. The battle between Liu Yunpeng and Chu Yang spread out from the Frostland, causing great waves in the Sky Academy. What was more exciting was that if Liu Yunpeng lost, he would have to recognize Chu Yang as his master. Chapter 1430. The parrot and the others also knew because someone had specially come to inform them. The parrot expressed its heartfelt gratitude to the person who came, and then cursed loudly. Scammer Chu, you bastard. You're really going to stir up trouble on your own again. You're trying to show off your might, and you even tricked this divine bird into leaving Mighty Storm. You're too shameless. The parrot stomped its feet, full of resentment. Chu Hang had shown off his power countless times, and every time, he was the center of the matter. As a divine bird, it had never done so until now. Kui Xinhu, Hao Haodong, and Oyu Lajing had long been accustomed to this kind of unscrupulous parrot, and completely ignored it, but they were still worried about this change. Has the eastern wilderness been discovered, so he has no choice but to fight with Liu Yunpeng? The three of them were not worried that Chu Yang would lose to Liu Yunpeng because that was simply impossible. However, they were worried that Chu Yang would be heavily besieged. It would be difficult for two fists to fight against four hands, and would die an unnatural death. Because Chu Yang had opened the seal on the passageway, Sima Jian was able to draw in the power of the world of gods into his body. He had gained a lot of enlightenment, so he was actually a little moved by the battle between Chu Yang and Liu Yunpeng. He wanted to take a look. He wanted to see what kind of changes Chu Yang had undergone in such a short time, and whether or not Chu Yang could freely use the myriad godworlds martial system. If this was confirmed, Sima Jian felt that it would be of great benefit to him. The heavenly soul world and myriad godworlds martial system were like the opposite of life and death, and with this, he had gained great enlightenment and breakthrough. His enlightenment came from Chu Yang, so Chu Yang's changes should be able to touch him again, and let him gain enlightenment. But he endured. He could temporarily leave the passage, but he absolutely could not enter the land of frost, a subworld like this. Otherwise, if he was trapped in the land of frost, the consequences would be unimaginable. If he died, Chu Yang's life would not be guaranteed. The seal on the space-time passageway was his last resort. Therefore, he could only sigh inwardly at the fact that the parrot and Hao Haodong were heading to the land of frost. Gong Sunlong was the first to receive the news. To be precise, he was one of the first to receive the news. This was because he had been paying attention to the land of frost. He had been paying attention to the wild dog Chu Yang's final outcome. The facts also proved that his original judgment was not wrong. The wild dog was indeed in the Cave of Frost. Because of this, while the members of the Cosmos Party were in awe of Gong Sunlong, they were also filled with admiration for him. However, he was somewhat uncertain. There were only two possibilities for such news. Firstly, Nirvana Sage and the others didn't have the ability to kill Chu Yang. In the end, things had turned out this way because Chu Yang had given them a chance. Secondly, Liu Yunpeng let his emotions affect his decisions. He wanted to fight with Chu Yang and ruthlessly trample on him. Only after humiliating Chu Yang's dignity to the extreme did he kill him. These were two completely different outcomes. If it was the first, then wild dog Chu Yang would be shocking. After all, the Soul Fusion Sage, the Dharma Characteristic Sage, and the Nirvana Sage were all at the Nirvana realm. The fact that the wild dog could escape from their hands was enough to show how terrifying the wild dog was. Therefore, when the members of the Cosmos Party asked him if he wanted to watch the battle, he was somewhat hesitant. In the first case, it would be useless even if he went. If it was the second case, why should he go? What was there to see about a dead dog? What's there to see about watching a person kill a dog? A stray dog isn't worthy of me doing this. Chapter 1431. It was already noon in the land of frost. The sun was hanging high in the sky, like a furnace sprinkling scorching light from the sky. The poisonous sunlight was roasting the earth. Chu Yang and Liu Yunpeng were both hovering in the air. They had to wait for enough people to arrive and let everyone see who was more powerful, so the battle had not yet begun. Below the void was an endless mountain forest with towering mountains, valleys, and undulating ravines. This was a very primitive area. In the mountain forest and in the sky, there were already many people watching the two people in the field, and more people were rushing here. The people coming from afar were originally noisy, but when they arrived, they could not help but close their mouths tightly. It was very quiet. There was no sound of people, only the sound of the wind. There were some movements in the mountain forest from time to time. Everyone was waiting for the battle to begin. This was the focus of the battle. Chu Yang and Liu Yunpeng were the two top geniuses of the Sky Academy. They had a conflict before, and it had evolved until now. Finally, it exploded and could not be stopped. Liu Yunpeng had been famous in the Sky Academy for a long time. He was half human and half demon and had amazing talent. He was an amazing genius. Everyone knew that he was powerful, and they also knew that there was a sage behind him who was terrifyingly powerful. Few people dared to confront him. Chu Yang had been in the Sky Academy for less than a year, but because of his identity in the Eastern Wilderness, he had already done many amazing things in the Sky Academy. Every one of them had caused a sensation, and everyone knew that he was an extremely powerful figure. It could be said that since Chu Yang entered the Sky Academy, everything he had done had a great impact. He had surpassed many geniuses and completely overshadowed them. Now, there was probably no one in the Sky Academy who did not know him. The scorching sunlight poured down, making Liu Yunpeng's entire body seem as if it was cast in gold, shining with a brilliant radiance. In his eyes that were filled with stubbornness, the golden light was so bright that it was almost impossible for people to open their eyes. At this moment, he no longer concealed himself. His eyes were incomparably wild and extremely awe-inspiring. His gaze was like two blood-red lightning bolts that shot out from hell. Once they came in contact with his gaze, they fiercely drilled into his soul. His murderous intent surged like the sea in his mind. On the other side, Chu Yang stood in the void. His black hair danced in the wind like a white cloud floating in the air. That kind of calmness was not enough to describe it. It was leisurely and at ease, as if he was not waiting for a life-and-death battle, but just a game that was about to begin. Liu Yunpeng's formless aura surged over, but he was only able to block it. It was as if a shore had blocked the endless waves. Before the battle had even begun, such an aura made everyone feel as if they had fallen into an ice cellar. Their hearts and minds were cold. Liu Yunpeng's powerful battle intent and terrifying killing intent were too shocking. Crack. Suddenly, one of the mountains below couldn't withstand the confrontation of the two qi and cracked open from the top. It was as if a bolt of lightning had appeared on top of it. Under the impact of the huge fluctuation, a huge crack instantly tore open on the mountain. The scene was terrifying. Boom. Among the mountains, the taller mountain below the two of them had dozens of boulders directly shatter. Then, the peak of the mountain collapsed. Amidst the rumbling, rubble flew through the air, and smoke and dust rose into the sky. It was a gloomy scene. The collision of the two auras was mainly caused by Liu Yunpeng's killing intent. At this moment, if someone entered it, they would probably explode. Chapter 1432. At this moment, the forest was in chaos. The beasts within the forest could sense the great terror. They were extremely frightened and fled in all directions. There were even many beasts that were so frightened that they prostrated themselves on the ground and trembled. Flutter. The birds also fled in all directions and soared into the sky. They wanted to leave this terrifying place. However, some of the birds were weaker. In their panic, they accidentally entered the dangerous area and immediately collapsed. It was as if a flower of blood had bloomed in the air. Their bodies and souls were destroyed on the spot. In the end, nothing was left, except for a bloody mist that floated in the air. Chu Yang's actions had provoked Liu Yunpeng too much. This was the reason why his killing intent was so fierce. It was like a sword that could destroy everything. Anyone who entered would be destroyed. This Liu Yunpeng is truly terrifying. Just the killing intent that he released is already so terrifying. He hasn't even made a move yet, and it's already like this. What would happen if he made a move? That Chu Yang is even more frightening. He easily blocked the terrifying killing intent. I really don't know how he did it. He's only at the 8th level of the spirit stage. If we knew why he was so terrifying, then so many people wouldn't have died. He would have died long ago. Screech. Just at this moment, Liu Yunpeng let out a roar towards the sky. Instantly, the forest below shook. The trees trembled and leaves fell down. The entire forest was instantly filled with endless killing intent. Wild dog, it's about time. Are you ready to die? Liu Yunpeng's voice was like a sword. When it entered everyone's ears, they couldn't help but feel a great fear in their hearts. Chu Yang glanced at the surroundings. Looking at the surging tide of people, he laughed. There are enough people here. Today, I'll use you to show off my might. He didn't put Liu Yunpeng in his heart at all. He cupped his hands towards the crowd and said, "Everyone, today, I will fight with Lone. Watch my might carefully. If you were to die by my hands in the future, don't feel wronged." Amitabha. Young Zen Master Fa Zhao put his palms together and said, "Almsgiver Chu, you should have done this long ago. Brother-in-law, you're awesome." The little lowly Ji Nin's immature voice attracted countless gazes as soon as she spoke. Everyone watched as she clenched her small fists and said, "Beat that idiot into a pig's head. Show my sister what you're capable of and she'll be more willing to bear your child." Whoosh, whoosh. Ji Yinmeng was faced with countless gazes. Her face immediately burned and turned red. Fortunately, she was shrouded in a layer of fog, so no one could see her clearly. However, at this moment, she really wanted to tear Ji Nin's mouth apart. However, she had to admit that if this bastard Chu Yang displayed his extraordinary strength, the pressure on her would be greatly reduced. Thus, she did not make a sound. As for her worry, it was absolutely unnecessary. Did she need to worry about this bastard Chu Yang? Without absolute confidence, this bastard would not fight. Like Ji Yinmeng, Chu Yang was unhappy when he heard Ji Nin's instigation. At this moment, Chu Yang's face almost collapsed. He suddenly remembered that he had to be responsible for Ji Yinmeng. Needless to say, his mood was complicated. Waha! How could there be no parrot in such an occasion? If the parrot did not make a sound, it would not be a parrot. It laughed in an extremely arrogant manner. "Chu Hang, I'm warning you. This is definitely the last time you show off your might. Next time, it will be me." Chapter 1434. All of you shut up. Liu Yunpeng was furious. Chu Yang was looking down on him too much. He directly warned everyone, "What does it have to do with you? The reason I let you see is to let you see how the wild dog dies at my hands. Do you understand?" Chu Yang didn't say anything and let Liu Yunpeng do what he wanted. Soon, Liu Yunpeng's cold eyes stared at Chu Yang. "Wild dog, are you ready? Go ahead." Liu Yunpeng's arrogant words made Chu Yang sneer slightly. "Humph." Liu Yunpeng snorted and immediately made his move. His body moved, he raised his hand and slammed his palm down from a distance. The huge palm had strange patterns on it. They were not the patterns of a human's palm at all. They faintly outlined the outline of a great rock and slammed down with a loud bang. It was as if the sky was collapsing. The palm covered the sky, and the infinite power made the world change color. As soon as Liu Yunpeng used this method, Chu Yang began to madly deduce in his mind. He wanted to give Liu Yunpeng a taste of his own medicine, so that he could ruthlessly defeat him. However, for a moment, he found that he couldn't completely deduce this method. From this, it could be seen that Liu Yunpeng's move was absolutely extraordinary. Although Chu Yang didn't use the divine demon martial soul, his deduction ability was definitely not bad now. At least, he could easily use the parrot's copy ability. After all, his current divine soul was extremely powerful. At the same time, in his spiritual world, the scene was amazing. The rock spread its wings, reached thousands of miles in an instant, and grabbed a hole in the sky with its claws. This was the profound meaning of Liu Yunpeng's move. "You break the sky, I'll mend the sky. Let's see who's stronger." Chu Yang moved his mind and directly used the Heaven Mend seal. The barrier of the sky appeared in front of him in an instant, and Liu Yunpeng's palm covered an area of about an acre, making the void rumble. Liu Yunpeng's move amazed many people. Even Sage Merged Soul and the others were shocked. They felt that Liu Yunpeng seemed to be able to fight with them. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The giant hand that covered the sky slammed down on the heavenly barrier. With a loud bang, the void trembled. Immediately, there was a loud buzzing sound as a huge wave rushed out. The ripples in the void were like huge waves that rushed in all directions. For a moment, the battle between the two people couldn't be decided in an instant. But in everyone's perception, the winner had been decided. Liu Yunpeng's big hand made people feel wild and domineering. When the big hand fell, it was as if the sky was collapsing. However, people felt that Chu Yang's method was more unfathomable. The barrier was like the sky, as if Liu Yunpeng was tearing the heavenly Tao, and he was repairing it. It gave people a mysterious and wonderful feeling, as if they were observing the great Tao of heaven and listening to the sound of the great Tao. It was easy to destroy, but difficult to repair. Liu Yunpeng's pupils constricted slightly. Suddenly, the big hand he used suddenly changed. His index finger pointed at the barrier of the sky, and with a swoosh, a golden sword chi rushed out. It was as majestic as a pillar, and the sword chi swept across the sky, crazily cutting the barrier of the sky. But it was useless, as if a wooden sword was cutting iron stone. Liu Yunpeng's expression froze. He was in the transcendence realm, and among his various methods, he used spiritual power, while Chu Yang used spiritual energy. However, he couldn't break the method formed by his opponent's spiritual energy. If spiritual power was iron, then spiritual energy would be wood. How could an iron sword forged by spiritual power not cut a wooden sword? There was only one possibility. His opponent's wooden sword was made of strange wood. Just this point alone made Liu Yunpeng extremely shocked. He couldn't imagine that spiritual energy could fight against spiritual power, and he knew that he couldn't do it. Chapter 1435. Rumble. After a series of loud explosions, the heavenly barrier shattered. Chu Yang immediately shot out 5 rays of sword chi from his 5 fingers. With a sizzling sound, the 5-colored sword chi instantly sliced through the 5 sword mountains. Chu Yang rarely used the great 5-element sword technique, but it was definitely extraordinary. The next change was the 5-colored divine light. The battle between the two was countless times more intense than the previous one. It could be said to be colorful and dazzling. Everyone was unable to control themselves. It seems that Liu Yunpeng does indeed have the bloodline of the gold rock. His methods are not simple and are extremely powerful. If I didn't fuse my half-step magic power and half-step divine power, I would have lost instantly and could only use my domain to fight against him. Chu Yang's heart trembled. If he didn't break through and use the divine demon twins, he definitely wouldn't be Liu Yunpeng's opponent. As for the divine demon martial soul, if he didn't use it to kill, he wouldn't have used it in such a situation. If he wanted to show off, he naturally had to show off completely. Liu Yunpeng, receive my attack as well, Mahamayuri. Chu Yang shouted loudly. Suddenly, his arms materialized out of thin air. In addition to his 2 hands, he now had 10 arms. Each of his fingers performed the great 5-element sword technique, and the power of the 5 elements gushed out. Instantly, 50 sword chi rushed out. The sword chi was like a pillar that could destroy everything. Green, black, red, and yellow, the 5 colors were brilliant, and it was very beautiful. Wild dog, since you're a physique cultivator, I'll let you see whose body is more terrifying. Liu Yunpeng responded in an instant. He directly smashed his fist into the 55-element sword pillars. Amidst the explosive sounds, sword chi splashed out, and the 55-element sword pillars were all destroyed, vividly displaying the tyrannical strength of his body. However, his fist was also dripping with blood. Some of the wounds were so deep that even his bones could be seen. But this was already shocking enough. Wild dog, I don't believe that a mere spirit stage like you can fight against me. Die. Liu Yunpeng let out a long howl in pain. Suddenly he opened his fist into a palm and stretched out his hand. His palms instantly swelled and enlarged. His fingers became longer and thicker, shining with golden light. They curved like the claws of a rock and were incomparably sharp. They were like 5 heavenly hooks that enveloped down. Big wing gold rock bird. The big wing gold rock bird is a chicken. Chu Yang had a deep impression of the heavenly rock's wings turning into a pair of chicken wings after arriving in the East Continent. He didn't dodge. When he used his flood dragon martial spirit, it was extremely excited. With a dragon roar, its hand was like a dragon's claw as it met the attack. Clang clang clang. Their fingers collided, and it was as if 5 divine swords had collided. Sparks flew in all directions, and a metallic sound exploded. It was incomparably ear-piercing and extremely shocking. Bang! The 2 of them also began to fight in close quarters. Liu Yunpeng was half human and half demon. His physical body was much stronger than an ordinary person's. Moreover, his cultivation level was higher, so he could instantly display monstrous strength. However, Chu Yang's physical body was absolutely tyrannical. Even if it was a real big wing gold rock bird, if it was at the same cultivation level, he could still capture and kill it. Therefore, the battle between the 2 of them was extremely thrilling and intense. Blood splattered everywhere. It could be said that they were evenly matched. The spectators were incomparably shocked. Liu Yunpeng could not be more shocked. Wild dog's concealment was no ordinary concealment. It had not concealed much at all. If it had revealed its true battle prowess, Liu Yunpeng would probably have been killed instantly. I don't believe that I can't defeat you with this. Kill. Liu Yunpeng roared and became even more frenzied. At this point in the battle, he had no way out. While exchanging blows with Chu Yang, his eyes suddenly transformed into 2 golden vortexes. They erupted with an enormous suction force that wanted to devour people's souls. In an instant, they tore Chu Yang's spirit out and devoured it. Cut! Chu Yang roared. His gaze shot out like swords and bombarded Liu Yunpeng's eyes. Boom! Endless divine light burst forth. The scene was astonishing. With a swoosh, Liu Yunpeng changed his move again. A pair of golden rock wings unfolded behind him. The golden wings were like heavenly blades, filling the sky with golden light. Do you think I'm afraid of your chicken wings? Chu Yang sneered. He took a step forward with the 5 elements chaotic steps and smashed his fist over. Tens of thousands of rays of divine light collided with the golden wings. In an instant, there was a great explosion. Endless rays of light surged out and drowned the area. The 2 people behind him were sent flying. Liu Yunpeng felt intense pain in his body. If he didn't rely on his high cultivation level, who knew what would have happened to him just now? Chu Yang's eyes were sharp. If it was someone else, they would definitely be blasted apart by his astonishing strength when he exploded with a power of 180,000. However, Liu Yunpeng was actually able to match him equally in terms of physical strength. This time, he had really met his match. However, he wasn't worried at all. On the contrary, he was a little happy in his heart. Only such a battle could allow him to fight to his heart's content. Everyone present was also shocked by the close combat between the two people. These two people were confident that their physical bodies were unrivaled. They fought to the death, but the result was that they were evenly matched. Liu Yunpeng was still acceptable, but Chu Yang was really frightening. He was actually able to fight Liu Yunpeng to a draw despite crossing such a large realm. It was simply shocking. Chapter 1436. As soon as the demon bird appeared, an uproar instantly ensued. It was as if an army had released a sky full of arrows towards the enemy. Tens of thousands of arrows shot out at the same time and drowned out everything. Xiong Longxiang looked at the boiling crowd and muttered to himself, "This is only the beginning. This kind of freak has already subverted the entire martial arts system. You guys haven't seen it yet. His controlling the heavens and earth can even control someone at the law phase realm. This is impossible." Xie Wanjin's body trembled violently as if he had been electrocuted. He was suddenly horrified and looked at the demon bird that Chu Yang had transformed into in disbelief. However, after repeated confirmation, he concluded that it was definitely not a manifestation of spiritual energy. The difference between a manifestation of spiritual energy and a law phase was like heaven and earth. The former could be constructed according to a visualization diagram, but the law phase was the condensation and embodiment of a martial artist's cultivation. It was formed by gathering all of the martial artist's strength into a single point. If a manifestation of spiritual energy was a sword made from iron, then the law phase was a child born by a martial artist. Once the martial artist had successfully cultivated it, the sword would not be able to harm it at all. It could be kneaded into a fried dough twist or ground into powder. The two were not the same thing, and there was no comparison. A spirit stage martial artist was like a 4 or 5-year-old child. How could they give birth to a child? At the very least, they would need to reach the law phase realm and become a teenager. A 3 or 4-year-old child giving birth to their own child. Wasn't this the same as seeing a ghost? Sister Urk, brother-in-law could have easily dealt with you. He clearly wanted to take advantage of you. Then, he would wipe his hands clean and leave. He is a typical playboy. If you don't want him to take responsibility, then you will suffer a great loss. Ji Yinin's voice caused everyone to be stunned. Then, the little lowly encouraged, brother-in-law is such an excellent young master who likes to play around. Sister Urk, you have to control his temperament and give birth to a child to tie him down, otherwise, you will have more and more opponents in the end. Then, you will end up like our mother, crying in the end. Ji Yinmeng's vision darkened. She wished she could beat her own sister to death with her own hands. However, her words were crude but reasonable. That bastard obviously had the ability to suppress her, but he had chosen to use such a despicable method to deal with her. If it wasn't to eat and clean, then pick up his pants and leave, what else could it be? Waraha. The parrot's heart was filled with indignation. He hadn't seen Chu Hang for a few days, and he had become so outrageous. It hurriedly vented its anger and said to Ji Yinmeng, second sister-in-law, you have to be more careful. Chu Hang usually walks through thousands of flowers, but not a single leaf touches him. Waraha. When Chu Yang heard the conversation between the little lowly and the parrot, the devil bird he had transformed into suddenly dropped down, almost smashing into the ground. Wasn't this just blackmailing him to death? He was such a pure person, yet he was actually said to be like this. There was no justice in this world. Fortunately, when Liu Yunpeng saw that Chu Yang could also use the Dharma idol, he was also very shocked. He stopped his dive halfway, and once again soared into the sky. Otherwise, he would have seized a great opportunity. He was thoroughly frightened. How heaven-defying was this wild dog? How could it be so shocking? Chu Yang's Dharma idol was indeed the Dharma idol. The reason why he could condense it was because he had half-step divine power. The method was simple. The condensation of the Dharma idol was actually the condensation of the Godhead. It could be said that this was a huge Godhead in the shape of a devil bird. He used the method of the God's world, so naturally, he could overturn the heavenly spirit world's martial system. What he didn't expect was that it would cause such a big sensation. This made him feel uneasy. He had a feeling that something shameful was about to be exposed. Little lowly, if you talk nonsense again, I will cook you and eat you. Chapter 1437. At the same time, he sent a threatening message to the parrot. Do you understand formations? If you don't explain it clearly enough, I'll make both of your wings fall into my bowl. How immoral. The parrot was extremely unhappy. Chu Hang pretended to be a pig to eat a tiger. In the end, he even made the parrot clean up his mess and turn the tiger into a pig. Chu Hang, have you thought about this divine bird's feelings? Clang. At this moment, Liu Yunpeng saw that Chu Yang was absent-minded while fighting with him. He was jumping up and down because of other things. He was fuming with anger and directly swooped down. As Chu Yang spoke, he clashed with Liu Yunpeng. The rock's claws and the demon's claws collided. The two pairs of wings were like two blades that slashed against each other, bursting with a great amount of energy. The place where the two collided was like an erupting volcano. The glaring light and the surging waves were boundless. This was a duel between transcendents. The two of them were evenly matched and were both sent flying. After all, Liu Yunpeng was in the transcendence realm. His comprehension was more profound. However, Chu Yang had the advantage in the fusion of magic power and divine power. It was completely comparable to a true transcendence. At this moment, the parrot took the opportunity to intervene. It copied Chu Yang and cleared its throat. It opened its mouth and said, "Everyone, the parrot's lecture will now begin. This divine bird, please pay attention to this divine bird. This divine bird will tell you how Chu Hang was able to give birth to a child at the spirit stage." As soon as it opened its mouth, it immediately attracted the attention of many people. After all, everyone wanted to know. First, the parrot stood in the air. It was like Chu Yang with his hands behind his back. It smiled sinisterly and said, "If we want to talk about Chu Hang's transcendence, then we have to talk about Chu Hang's identity as a formation master." Screech. The high-pitched rock interrupted the parrot's words and immediately attracted everyone's attention. As soon as they separated, Liu Yunpeng circled back again. His aura was even more vigorous. His whole body was glittering with golden light, and the sound of the explosion rumbled. The feathers on his body seemed to be made of gold, and they were full of texture. It seemed that he was about to burst out with a big killing move. The parrot didn't care about these things. At first, it didn't care much about the parrot's lecture, but when it thought about Chu Hang, people would definitely have more doubts in the future. As such, its parrot lecture hall specialized in answering and dispelling people's doubts. It was bound to have great prospects. It was widely circulated and left its name in history, establishing an immortal monument. Such a great undertaking was interrupted at the beginning, and it was not going well. It immediately jumped in the air, pointed at Liu Yunpeng with its wings, and cursed, "You stupid little golden chick, are you in a hurry to make chicken stew with mushrooms? This divine bird parrot lecture hall will be of great benefit to you. Little golden chick, don't you have this little bit of intelligence? Know yourself and know your enemy, and you will be victorious in every battle. Are you deaf? Don't you know? Haven't you heard that your father and mother are also deaf and mute? Little golden chick, you are simply #yuan%. The parrot exploded, and cursed Liu Yunpeng to the point that smoke was coming out of his ancestral grave. He was worse than a dog, and he was even worse than an idiot. His life was a walking joke. It was the greatest miracle of the heavenly soul world that he had the courage to live until now. It was an unprecedented miracle. Its cheap mouth was absolutely unforgiving, especially its great undertaking, the parrot lecture hall, had been destroyed. Its fighting strength had been off the charts. It had cursed Liu Yunpeng until the god of three corpses jumped in anger. He had temporarily given up on Chu Yang, and had turned his spearhead to the parrot. His gaze was extremely cold as he stared at the parrot. The parrot trembled, but it hid it very well. It took the opportunity to imitate Chu Yang and said, "This baby is so scared. Little golden chick, you are so scary." Then, before Liu Yunpeng could explode, it began its parrot lecture hall. Everyone, this is the first lesson of the parrot lecture hall. Under the extremely fierce situation of the battle, this divine bird has braved great danger, and with a fearless spirit of sacrifice, I will answer your questions and solve your doubt. Therefore, please listen to this divine bird's concise and comprehensive explanation. It's like this. A long, long time ago, there was a pit in the eastern wilderness. There was a big pit and a small pit in the pit. The small pit asked the big pit about Chu Hang's Dharma idol. Chapter 1438. The parrot successfully stole everyone's attention and became the center of the world. In front of everyone's murderous eyes, it proudly stuck out its small chest and shamelessly said, "This is the so-called concise and comprehensive. You still have the face to say that." Everyone's anger made the parrot even prouder. This is a remake of the story of the temple on the mountain. Many people already couldn't help but grind their teeth. Especially Liu Yunpeng. He really wanted to hear how Chu Yang did it. But don't be disappointed. The parrot swayed and said, "The parrot's lecture must have a perfect beginning. Now I'm going to talk about the main point. Everyone, please give me a round of applause." Kui Xinhu and the others wanted to beat the parrot. Luo Xiao, who was in the crowd, really wanted to strip this bird naked and hang it to dry. Liu Yunpeng and Chu Yang's battle, every detail was incomparably crucial to him. He divided his energy to watch this broken bird play cheap. There was no applause. The parrot was unhappy. It turned its head and acted like a child in a fit of pique. "No applause. This divine bird won't say it even if you beat me to death. You have to know, under what circumstances did this divine bird reveal heaven's secrets? Chu Hang is such a bastard. His anger is definitely not something you can imagine." It became even more indignant. This divine bird's heart is already beating like a drum. The risk is so big, so I might as well not say it. Although this broken bird was shameless, what it said really made sense. Who was Chu Hang, the creator who stripped naked and hung up, who would kill a bunch of people at the slightest provocation? How cruel was that? Revealing his heaven's secrets could indeed be said to be an incomparably dangerous undertaking. But who knew what this broken bird and wild dog were doing, anyway? They wore a pair of pants together. The parrot was very worried that no one would cooperate with its arrogance. As soon as its voice fell, it hurriedly said, "However, Chu Hang is very hypocritical, loves to show off, and likes to be in the limelight. Maybe this divine bird exposed him like this, and he might be secretly laughing. So, everyone." It laughed sinisterly. "Hehe, everyone, hurry up and clap. Clap clap." A sudden round of applause came from Xiong Longxiang. Xiong Longxiang was really curious. He didn't mind cooperating with the parrot. Anyway, he would deal with the parrot in the future. It was better to give the parrot a good impression. Afterwards, Sage Merged Soul and Sage Fa Xiong also applauded. Towards the end, the applause was like a tidal wave. Waha! The parrot's long-cherished wish had been fulfilled, and it let out a strange laugh. It poked Chu Yang with one of its wings. "Everyone, this divine bird has already given you the answer. Chu Hang is a 7th grade array master." Did this mean that the demon bird that Chu Yang had transformed into was an array formation? Many people immediately looked at the demon bird, but they couldn't see anything. Instead, they looked at the parrot suspiciously. The parrot was already asking Chu Yang for help. It said through secret voice sending, "Chu Hang, how should I brag?" Chu Yang squinted his eyes. Seeing that it had explained for him, he gave it a whole set of compliments. While the parrot was listening, it proudly said to the crowd, "If all of you could see it, this divine bird's parrot lecture hall would still need to exist. Chu Hang's trap is thousands of miles deep. It is unimaginable. You are all naive, and all of you are not wearing shoes. This divine bird is too lazy to play riddles with you, because it is like playing the lute to a cow." Chapter 1439. Spell Formation Seal. Liu Yunpeng didn't see it. Xiong Longxiang didn't see it either. In order to curry favor with the parrot, he continued, "My eyes are stupid. Can you explain it to me? An egg gives birth to a chicken. Do you understand?" The parrot looked at Xiong Longxiang admiringly. Chu Hang's spell formation is like a live rooster. Not only can it marry a hen, but it can also give birth to eggs. That was absolute nonsense. Xiong Longxiang was absolutely certain. "Can you explain it in detail?" he asked. "Speak specifically, my ass." The parrot cursed. This divine bird has already spared no effort in understanding such heavenly mysteries. However, this divine bird can give you a hint. How did Chu Hang's spell formation become a spell formation of the 7th rank? Chu Yang really had to hand it to the parrot. The parrot was spouting nonsense. It had cut off bits and pieces of his instructions and tossed the rest aside. In the end, he hadn't been able to complete his explanation. However, with the parrot's explanation, Yang Qi realized that the method of forming virtual godhood could be transformed into a spell formation seal. In that way, the spell formation seal would be even more indestructible. Immediately, he cooperated with the parrot and began to test it out. Faint fluctuations of a spell formation could be sensed from the devil bird. Although they were subtle, the audience was still shocked. Is that devil bird Dharma idol really a spell formation? Isn't that a bit too much of a work of art? How can a spell formation be used to such an extent? He's a spell formation genius. He can transform a spell formation into a Dharma idol, and no one can sense even the slightest fluctuation of the spell formation. Superlative craftsmanship. Spell formations can transform into gold rock, flood dragons, and other such things, but how can it be like this? Spell formation? You believe that? Xiong Longxiang felt a burst of disdain. He was 100% sure that Chu Yang and that lousy bird were fooling people. "Mitch, wild dog, I thought you had some amazing trick up your sleeve. You're just relying on a mere spell formation." Liu Yunpeng wasn't sure either, but that wasn't important. What was important was the momentum. As soon as he spoke, everyone fell silent. Chu Yang laughed. "So what? A little golden chick is enough to deal with you. If it's not the real Dharma body, how can you be my opponent? Go to hell." Kai. Under Liu Yunpeng's gold rock Dharma power, the feathers burst out with a metallic texture. It swooped down at an extremely fast speed. All the feathers on the Dharma power spread out and shot out, bursting out a storm of arrow feathers like a golden sea. Woo woo woo. Each feather was at least a few meters long, like a golden spear. The sharp whistling sound was like thunder. "Little golden rooster, is that all you can do? It seems that I can do it too." Chu Yang had experienced similar methods when he was in the eastern wilderness, so he didn't take it to heart. Buzz buzz buzz. The void hummed. Immediately, the sound of metal breaking stone shook the sky, causing many people's eardrums to hurt. At this moment, Chu Yang's killing intent was shocking. Streaks of sword radiance rushed into the sky like an endless volcano erupting. The sword chi rushed into the 9 heavens. The feathers on the demonic bird shot out and turned into black swords. They were like demonic swords as they lined up in the sky. Every sword was dozens of feet long, and there was a forest of divine swords. The tips of the swords were cold as they stood upright in the sky. They were all swallowing and spitting out dazzling sword chi, sharp and dazzling. At first glance, there were divine swords everywhere, and the killing intent was dense. This was an awe-inspiring sea of swords, as far as the eye could see. The killing intent was shocking, making people tremble in fear. Shio shio shio. The sound of air breaking rang out. The black demonic sword and the golden spear collided, like a black sea colliding with a golden sea. Clang, clang, clang. The black demonic sword and the golden spear were constantly collapsing and exploding, turning into a rolling energy storm that swept out. In the end, the collision of the two was like two crazy armies, killing each other until there was no one left. Chapter 1440. Little Golden Rooster, I told you, your methods are useless against me. Clang, 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 clang. Chu Yang did the same as Liu Yunpeng. The black feathers on the demonic bird also stood up and turned into black demonic swords. The demonic bird was formed after the desolate demon failed to transform into a Kuan-peng. It was definitely not inferior to the gold rock. Roar. Liu Yunpeng's roar shook the mountains and rivers. Golden spears were incomparably sharp. Rays of light rushed into the sky and pierced through again. This was the gold rock's precious technique. It represented the fierceness and strength of the Gold Rock clan. It was invincible and could destroy all things. In fact, it was also so. The Gold Rock clan was invincible. It was very difficult to meet an opponent. Every spear was shining. The entire spear seemed to be burning. The golden rays of light were benevolent. They pierced through in a dense and dazzling manner. The void seemed to be trembling, as if it had been cut open. Clang, 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 clang. The sword tied on the demonic bird also erupted again. The black demonic swords were like streaks of black lightning. They tore through the sky and collided with the numerous spears. Immediately, there was another dense clang sound. Screech. During the collision, the golden spears were even sharper and more invincible than before. They destroyed all the black demonic swords. However, the demonic swords that exploded suddenly changed. They reformed into demonic birds that were more than 1 zhong long. They cried out in unison, shaking the heavens and earth. Then, endless offensive power completely erupted. Bang! 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 The sky was filled with demonic birds. They were incomparably majestic and filled the entire sky. It was as if an army of demonic birds had suddenly rushed out from a certain space and time. Everywhere they passed, they swept through everything. Under their sharp claws, countless golden spears were all smashed into pieces. In the sky, balls of golden light continuously exploded like fireworks. They were incomparably dazzling and made people completely absent-minded. Liu Yunpeng was furious. The demonic birds were similar to the gold rock. Moreover, Chu Yang used the same technique to fight against him. In the end, the changes produced were even more shocking than his. It seemed that Chu Yang was more proficient in the gold rock technique than him. To him, this was simply the greatest humiliation. Bang! Liu Yunpeng's gold rock Dharma idol opened its mouth and spat out a golden flame. At the same time, it swooped down. Chu Yang wanted to completely defeat Liu Yunpeng. So, he still sat down with him, and the two fought fiercely. Clang! Above the sky, a terrifying storm swept out continuously. It was a sight that made one's heart tremble. The more Liu Yunpeng fought, the more frightened he became. He suddenly realized that he had an instinctive fear of Chu Yang, which was completely suppressed. The demonic birds were more noble than the gold rock, and Chu Yang's bloodline seemed to be more noble than his. The two fought fiercely in the sky, and the clouds in the sky were scattered. This should have been a fierce battle, a battle of life and death, but now it had become very strange. Chu Yang's moves were exactly the same as Liu Yunpeng's. The power that erupted was not on par with Liu Yunpeng's. Sometimes, it was even more shocking than Liu Yunpeng's. This made many people feel more and more shocked. In the end, they all began to speak. What's going on? Is Liu Yunpeng fighting a life-and-death battle with his other self? Does Chu Yang also have the bloodline of the Gold Rock clan? Is he half human and half demon? Otherwise, how can he be like this? Such a battle is simply magical. Can the word magical explain everything? If you don't understand the situation, you might think that the two of them are brothers. Ice Kuan. Xiong Longxiang knew the reason. His master had the Kuan-peng secret technique, so Liu Yunpeng's gold rock secret technique was nothing. Chapter 1441. The parrot didn't care about this. It always wanted to start the parrot lecture again, but it didn't have the chance. The two creatures were fighting too fiercely. In just a moment, Chu Yang and Liu Yunpeng fought at least hundreds of rounds. They fought from the sky to the ground, and then broke the ground. It was as if they were going to fall into the abyss. Then, they rose up and stood in the sky again. Chu Yang had the upper hand. Liu Yunpeng's gold rock Dharma idol was covered in wounds. Its wings were almost scratched off, and blood was flowing from the wounds. The Dharma idol was like a real rock. It was very shocking. Liu Yunpeng, have you had enough? Or do you have any other tricks? Hurry up and use them. Don't waste my time. Chu Yong not only knew everything about the demon bird, but also obtained the complete Kuan Peng secret technique from the Ice Kuan. It was easy for him to deal with Liu Yunpeng's Gold Rock secret technique. He just wanted to feel the power of half-step Dharma power and half-step divine power, and the combination of the two. Now that he got the answer, he didn't want to continue. How do you know the Gold Rock secret technique? Liu Yunpeng's eyes were like two spears. It was as if he wanted to see through Chu Yang. He stared at Chu Yang with a murderous intent. Chu Yang wouldn't tell him the real reason. He said casually, "Pay him back in his own coin." Little golden rooster, have you heard of this before? Pay him back in his own coin? Liu Yunpeng narrowed his eyes. If Wild Dog could do this and fight back using other people's methods, what kind of method was this? How shocking and terrifying was that? He couldn't help but ask, "Is this your divine power?" Chu Yang laughed in his heart and continued to bluff, "I won't bully you like this. This is not a divine power, but a technique that I'm about to create. I'll take all the techniques in the world for my use. I'll be the only one in the world, and I'll make life as lonely as snow." Wild Dog, what an arrogant tone. When Liu Yunpeng saw that he couldn't get anything out of him, he was completely enraged. He bared his white teeth and sneered, "I guarantee that you will never have the chance." Boom. As soon as he finished speaking, an extremely fierce murderous aura suddenly erupted between heaven and earth. The aura spread out, causing the bodies and souls of those who felt it to involuntarily tremble. At this moment, everyone felt as if a prehistoric giant beast had broken through time and space and arrived in this world. Its endless murderous intent swept through the sky. This is. Everyone was incomparably shocked. Soon, they knew the source of this baleful aura. In Liu Yunpeng's hand, a pitch-black long saber had appeared from time to time. It was nearly 1.5 feet long and emitted a dense black light, frightening one's soul. Tianpeng Manic Blade. This is Tianpeng Manic Blade. Liu Yunpeng actually took out the Tianpeng Manic Blade. The Heavenly Rock Berserk Blade is a saint weapon, a saint-level weapon. Everyone's expression changed. Those who were weaker turned pale and directly knelt on the ground. Whether it was Xia Wanjin, the Soul Fusion Sage, the Dharma Sage, or the Nirvana Sage, they were all greatly shocked at this moment. This was especially true for the Soul Fusion Sage and the Dharma Sage. If Chu Yang died, they would also die. The Tianpeng Manic Blade, also known as the Tianpeng Demonic Blade, was the demonic weapon of Sage Peng behind Liu Yunpeng. It had killed countless people. Corpses piled up like mountains and rivers of blood. No one knew how many creatures had been killed by it. It was said that no less than 10 saints had died because of this saber. This legendary blade of slaughter was now in front of everyone's eyes. It flashed with a cold light, like a murderous demon in a deep slumber. Its murderous aura soared to the sky. That kind of aura made people's hair stand on end. It was even more frightening. A saint's weapon? This was troublesome. Chapter 1442. How can he fight? Haha, the wild dog is dead for sure. That's right. Let's see how the wild dog can continue to be so arrogant. This is a sage's weapon. No matter how strong the wild dog is, he will still die. Retribution is inevitable. The wild dog's retribution has finally arrived. What retribution? The reason why the wild dog could be so arrogant before was because he picked on the weak. Now, let's show him what is wrong. After the people in the sky recovered from their shock, they let loose and began to clamor. Previously, they didn't dare to call Chu Yang a wild dog. However, now that they called him a wild dog, they no longer had any scruples. Chu Yang's performance was too shocking. Let's not talk about what happened in the past, just look at what was in front of them. He was only at the spirit realm, but he was able to fight against a law phase realm expert. He could even condense a law phase. Just this point alone was enough to frighten many people. Such a person was simply too awe-inspiring. However, all of this would no longer exist. Although the wild dog was strong, the person he met was even stronger. Even a sacred artifact had been taken out. What could the wild dog do? Are you afraid? Liu Yunpeng sneered and looked at Chu Yang with ridicule. Chu Yang didn't say anything. He had heard from Shangguanlan that Liu Yunpeng had a sage's weapon, but he didn't expect it to be true. Liu Yunpeng sneered, "Wild dog, don't worry. It has been sealed. It will only increase in strength as I level up." He gently wiped the blade with his hand and said, "Although it doesn't have its original power, it is enough to kill a wild dog like you. I will never let it be humiliated by me." The heavenly rock manic blade was a demonic weapon that the rock sage had refined for his entire life. As the descendant of the rock sage, how could Liu Yunpeng allow the heavenly rock manic blade to taste defeat in his hands? The heavenly rock wild blade has indeed been sealed. At this time, Xia Wanjin also deliberately spoke up and mocked Chu Yang. "Wild dog, you can rest assured that rock sage will definitely not let brother Liu rely on external things too early." Chu Yang couldn't help but glance at Xia Wanjin. He sneered inwardly, "Do you all really think that you can defeat me?" Chu Yang did not know much about Tian Peng Wild Blade. Not many people present knew how terrifying it was, but there were rumors that it was incomparably heavy, and only saints could lift it. Therefore, this was probably the only way to seal it so that Liu Yunpeng could use it when he was at a lower realm. At this moment, Liu Yunpeng walked out of the gold rock Dharma form with the rock blade in his hand. His whole body was as bright as gold, while the rock blade was as black as ink. The two formed a sharp contrast. However, the combination of the two murderous intents was like the waves of the ocean. Too presumptuous. Chu Yang directly poured a basin of cold water over him. "Little golden rooster, you'd better not show off in front of me. I'm not very happy right now." Liu Yunpeng was originally like a demon god descending into the world. The golden waves surging around him were extremely domineering. However, when he suddenly heard these words, his entire person instantly froze. He seemed to have forgotten something. Wild dog was too terrifying. He had not used many shocking moves. However, Liu Yunpeng had already planned his battle with Chu Yang. How could he be so frightened by wild dog? "What, wild dog, do you have no confidence now?" With a clang, Liu Yunpeng directly pointed at Chu Yang with the black rock blade in his hand. It was extremely provocative. The tip of the blade trembled slightly, emitting a buzzing sound. It was as black as ink, like a black hole that wanted to devour people's minds. Chapter 1443. Just how much blood did this demonic blade drink? Just how many lives did it take for it to possess such a heavy killing intent? Chu Yang thought about how to deal with this demonic blade and immediately thought of the pentagram anti-heaven star and 5 elemental sky ring. I wonder if the pentagram anti-heaven star and 5 elemental sky ring can fight against this demonic blade. If they can fight against this demonic weapon, it will be greatly beneficial to them. The rock blade had been sealed and was only a law phase stage weapon. However, the pentagram anti-heaven star and 5 elemental sky ring were only spirit stage weapons. If they were destroyed by the demonic blade, the power of the pentagram divine light would be greatly reduced. This was something that Chu Yang did not wish to see. The demonic blade in Liu Yunpeng's hands was a bit troublesome. "Wild dog, die." While Chu Yang was hesitating, the black rock blade in Liu Yunpeng's hand slashed down. A black tide surged and a destructive aura surged out like a giant wave. It was as if a demon had been born and was about to slaughter the world. In an instant, the void where Chu Yang was directly slashed open like a tattered picture scroll, and it was blown away by the chaotic wind to the point that it whistled incessantly. It was unstoppable and invincible. It can actually slash open space. This blade is truly amazing. Chu Yang's heart trembled. He immediately made up his mind, even if the pentagram anti-heaven star and 5 elemental sky ring are destroyed, I'll just rebuild them in the future. If I keep them, I'll never be able to improve. Buzz. The pentagram anti-heaven star and the 5 elements heaven circulating ring instantly rushed out like a 5 elements divine diagram. They rushed forward in a hurry and spun at a high speed, making buzzing noises. The peerless sharpness almost cut open the void. The 5-colored divine light shone and blocked the attack of the peerless murderous weapon. Clang, 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 clang. The two weapons collided and sparks flew everywhere. It was as if the pentagram wave and the black wave had collided. The clouds in the sky were silently destroyed. Everyone watching the battle couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. It was too amazing. Such a scene made it hard for anyone to believe that it was a fight between a spirit stage 8th level and a transcendent stage 9th level. The rock blade was amazing, but the weapon in Chu Yang's hand was also extraordinary. Who would have thought that Chu Yang would have such a weapon? Only now did it reveal itself. He blocked it. Chu Yang was overjoyed. He had underestimated the 5 lights anti-heaven star and the 5 elements heaven circulating ring. The 5 elements mutual restraint and generation were the most basic principles of the world. How could the two be ordinary when they fused into one? He could even feel the joy coming from the pentagram anti-heaven star and the 5 elements heaven circulating ring. He couldn't help but smile as he thought to himself, I have indeed let you guys cover me in dust. 5 elements weapon? Wild dog, let's see how many times you can resist. Liu Yunpeng's long hair fluttered in the wind. High in the sky, he once again chopped down with the black rock saber. Every subsequent attack was different from the first attack. There seemed to be some sort of profoundness contained within each attack. However, the pentagram anti-heaven star and the 5 elements heaven circulating ring also contained the profoundness of the 5 elements. Under the bombardment, they remained motionless like boulders. Boom! Liu Yunpeng couldn't see any success after several attacks. Immediately, the rock saber in his hand transformed into a black rock that was as large as a mountain. The turbulent fluctuations instantly collapsed the mountain below. The black rock opened its mouth and wanted to devour Chu Yang along with his weapon. The rock saber was a supreme weapon. It contained the profoundness of the rock saint. Not only could Liu Yunpeng display endless ferocity, the rock saber could also attack independently. Clang! Clang! Chapter 1444. The pentagonal anti-heaven star also spun crazily, continuously cutting this terrifying demonic rock. Suddenly, sparks flew everywhere, like endless fireworks blooming there. Chu Hang is probably in trouble this time. Little golden rooster, this demonic weapon, is too savage. Not only does it have the rock sage's profound and inextinguishable fighting spirit sealed, but it can also actively kill. If it is not Chu Hang, who can resist it? The parrot did not have the heart to think about anything else at this time, and was slightly worried. After all, the heavenly rock wild blade was a saint's weapon. Although it was sealed, it still contained the fighting spirit, which was too terrifying. It could pierce through the heaven and earth, sweeping away everything. Just the murderous aura that it emitted was enough to tear apart the mountains below. It was extremely frightening. The parrot was sure that if it was not Chu Yang, but an ordinary person, just one attack would definitely kill them, and they would be directly split in half without any suspense. Liu Yunpeng indeed has the qualifications to be arrogant. To be able to control such a murderous weapon at this time, it is indeed extraordinary. In the crowd, Luo Xiu's expression was incomparably dignified. Such a murderous blade was too terrifying. Soon, many people saw the signs. Liu Yunpeng seemed to be planning to exhaust Chu Yang's spiritual energy and weaken Chu Yang's battle strength. When Chu Yang could not maintain it, he would immediately use his killing move. After all, spiritual energy was far inferior to magical power. Although it could resist magical power, the consumption of spiritual energy was absolutely terrifying. Boom! Chu Yang used the heavenly abode, and in an instant, the image of the heavenly abode appeared, like a giant sun. He was in the giant sun, as if he was the master of the sun. His aura was completely different, and his aura was many times stronger. The giant sun that appeared from the heavenly abode crazily devoured the power of heaven and earth, sucking away all the spiritual energy in the sky. It made people clearly feel that the endless heaven and earth were surging, and in the end, it was completely transformed into the power of the 5 elements. In an instant, the giant sun also became a 5-colored giant sun. Clang clang! The two fought, and many mountains below were cut down, and one canyon after another was filled up. The wild dog is actually so powerful. His comprehension of the 5 elements is actually so profound. He can actually fight 600 to 700 rounds with King Liu Yunpeng, who has a divine weapon, without showing any signs of defeat. Too many people were astonished. In this incomparably intense battle, Chu Yang's mastery of the five elements mysteries seemed to be still shaky, and he was at a disadvantage. But soon, Chu Yang's five elements' profound meaning became more and more profound. In the end, they were evenly matched. The two of them were locked in a stalemate, and this fierce battle had already lasted for an hour. Liu Yunpeng is also incomparably terrifying. How difficult is it to drive a sacred tool? Yet, he didn't show any signs of exhaustion, nor did he suffer any backlash from the murderous weapon. In other words, he can already completely control that demonic blade. Everyone was shocked by these two individuals' fighting strength. Countless people felt fear. They were all of the younger generation, so if it was them, they would most likely immediately die. The more Chu Yang fought, the more excited he became. His comprehension of the most simple principles of the five elements mysteries became deeper and deeper. Especially through the feedback from the pentagram anti-heaven star and the five elements circulation heavenly ring, he could almost return to simplicity and display the power of turning something rotten into something miraculous. Liu Yunpeng's Tianpeng Wild Blade was too good of an opponent. The saint's mysteries hidden within gave Chu Yang, the pentagram anti-heaven star, and the five elements circulation heavenly ring the best pressure. The two of them had their own plans, and neither was willing to give an inch. It was difficult to determine who was superior. They fought until the earth shook and the mountains shook. The scene was terrifying, but there was no clear victor. Wild dog, that's enough. I've had enough of you. You actually dared to use me as an opponent in the trial. I won't forgive you. Chapter 1445. Boom. As he roared, the golden hand pressed down, and the mountain peak below instantly exploded. His aura was like a rainbow, and with a roar, the mountains and rivers in all directions moved, and leaves flew in the forest. Gold rock devouring Buddha. Rumble. Boom. Liu Yunpeng's body was surging with an inexplicable aura. Golden light shot up into the sky, and a great sun appeared behind him. In the center was a huge gold rock. Its cold eyes opened, and it was as if a demon god had awakened. Its killing intent was monstrous, and it was terrifying. As soon as this secret technique was used, the world lost its color, the wind and clouds changed, and a terrifying aura spread. Great Sun Gold Rock! Little Zen Master Fa Zhao exclaimed, and then he put his palms together and said, Amitabha, almsgiver Chu, you have to be careful. The ancient Buddha once subdued a gold rock, but in the end, he was devoured by it and swallowed it alive. In the end, he died. What? Instantly, many people's expressions changed. It was actually such a secret technique that could kill a supreme Buddha. What little Zen Master Fa Zhao said was widely spread, and many people knew about it. In ancient times, a gold rock wreaked havoc in the human world, slaughtering creatures as it wished, and in the end, it was subdued by a Buddha. However, this gold rock's murderous nature was hard to change. It pretended to submit, and in the end, it stole the secret of Buddhism, turned into a great sun gold rock, and swallowed the Buddha's head. The Buddha failed to subdue the gold rock, but he lost his life instead. It was a tragedy that righteousness could not overcome evil. In the end, this even became a warning to Buddhism, so Buddhism no longer taught the secret of Buddhism easily. No one would have thought that Liu Yunpeng actually knew such a secret technique of the rock race. Chu Yang narrowed his eyes slightly. In his previous life, there were similar stories, but there were some differences. The rock and the peacock were born of the same mother. The peacock once swallowed Tathagata into its stomach, and Tathagata was reborn by cutting open the peacock's back, so he respected the peacock as his mother. Therefore, this giant rock became Tathagata's uncle. At this moment, the mysterious veil of this supreme secret technique was lifted. It was a flawless killing technique. The gold rock race used this technique to devour a supreme Buddha in the ancient era. The great sun gold rock moved with Liu Yunpeng, as if it had become one with him. In its sharp mouth, there was a bloody Buddha that looked like a piece of flesh, causing Chu Yang to squint his eyes. Eating Buddha? Then show me how to eat one. Boom. With a thought, Chu Yang visualized the Mahamayuri Dharma idol. Instantly, 10,000 rays of golden light appeared behind him. Amitabha. Amidst a Buddhist chant, the head of a Buddha appeared, sitting cross-legged on the body of the peacock. It had 3 heads and 8 arms, and its eyes were filled with anger. Among the 8 arms, one of them was holding a lotus, one was holding the lion seal, one was holding the Aquarius seal, one was holding the spiritual pearl seal, and the rest were holding magic weapons. The feathers of the peacock were 100 feet long, and they were extremely beautiful when they spread out. Endless rays of light burst out, causing the whole world to be filled with the sound of Sanskrit chanting. It was peaceful and quiet. "Mph, wild dog, you are really stupid," Liu Yunpeng sneered. "If the great sun gold rock could eat Buddha in the ancient era, why can't it be done now? I'll eat one for you to see." Screech. Amidst the resounding cries of the rock, 10,000 rays of golden light shot out. The great sun gold rock was moving rapidly, as if the sun was moving according to the trajectory of the sky. Rumble. Chuyang did not make a sound. The void shook, and amidst the loud noise, Mahamayuri Dharma idol behind him took the initiative to welcome it. Its 8 arms and 8 arms struck out, and its 6 eyes were filled with anger, burning everything. However, as soon as the great sun gold rock arrived, it suddenly disappeared into its own sun. Immediately, the sun turned black and turned into a black hole, devouring all the anger. Mahamayuri Dharma idol was also uncontrollably sucked into the black hole. In just an instant, Mahamayuri Dharma idol had disappeared completely into the black sun. It was completely devoured. Screech. When the wild and violent cries of the rock resounded throughout the world, the black sun changed again. It turned from black to gold, and endless rays of golden light burst out. Amidst it, the bloody Buddha in the mouth of the great sun gold rock had turned into Mahamayuri Dharma idol. Chapter 1446. Heaven and earth fell silent at this moment. Everyone was speechless, as if the scene from ancient times had reappeared in the human world. Gold rock eating Buddha. Chuyang was strong, but Liu Yunpeng was stronger. He was too strong. Little Zen master Fa Zhao looked at this scene in a daze. The most sacred Buddha in his heart had been reduced to food for animals. He had been devoured and desecrated. Therefore, he could not help but think of the condemnation he had for Chuyang. He could not help but ask himself, is he wrong, or am I wrong? Should I kill those people or not? Buddha had been reduced to food. He could not refuse to do good and stop eating because of choking. However, he had to be vigilant. Perhaps the people that almsgiver Chu killed were all gold rock that devoured Buddha. Evil is hard to change, and they can only be killed. Little Zen master Fa Zhao put his palms together. Amitabha. He broke the silence. At the same time, he was a little worried about Chuyang. Boom. The clamor that had been suppressed completely erupted at this moment. Gold rock eating Buddha, this is too shocking. Is this the scene of gold rock eating Buddha in ancient times? I can't help but think about it. Liu Yunpeng is too shocking. With such an attack technique, who can be his opponent? Liu Yunpeng is already invincible. Wild dog is doomed this time. Amidst the clamor, Chuyang looked at the Mahamayuri in the mouth of the great sun gold rock, swinging in the air like a pendulum. He muttered to himself, is it completely restrained? The ancient gold rock comprehended Buddhism and stole the secrets of Buddhism. He created a secret technique to restrain Buddha. How can the Mahamayuri that I transformed into be a match for him? He was very emotional. There were so many outstanding people in the world. There were countless people like the great sun gold rock. He had underestimated the people of the world. He was not a Buddha, so how could he restrain such a secret technique of the rock clan? His previous actions were a little arrogant. Wild dog, how do you feel? Defeated. Liu Yunpeng said mockingly, I was indeed a little afraid of you. I couldn't figure out your background, so I had no choice but to do this. But it seems like you're just SOSO. Screech. As he pointed at Chuyang, a wild and domineering roar rang out from his body, as if announcing something. Wild dog, you want to subdue me? What a joke. Even if you use all your hidden tricks today, you can't do anything to me. I declare that you will die here today. Chu Yang only smiled when he heard this. He understood what Liu Yunpeng meant. Liu Yunpeng was laughing at his stupidity. Previously, when Chu Yang forced Liu Yunpeng to submit, Liu Yunpeng was frightened and couldn't make up his mind. Therefore, Liu Yunpeng was cautious. He thought of a compromise. He used provocation to avoid answering, and used it to test Chu Yang's strength before finally making a decision. He succeeded. Chu Yang arrogantly and foolishly agreed, giving him such a chance. Now, Liu Yunpeng felt that he had completely tested Chu Yang's strength. There was no need to be afraid of Chu Yang. Even if Chu Yang used the divine demon twins and other secret techniques, he wouldn't be afraid. Little golden rooster, do you know this saying? Chu Yang couldn't help but laugh coldly. When the scar is healed, you forget the pain. He looked coldly at Liu Yunpeng. Do you really think that I care about subduing you? I'm just looking for fun. Be careful, because of your appearance, you won't even have the chance to submit later. Hey, there's a good show to watch. Xiong Longxiang heard this and couldn't help but laugh in his heart. Liu Yunpeng didn't know what he was talking about. He had the upper hand, so he spouted nonsense. He really didn't know how to write the word death. Chapter 1447. Xia Wanjin was also evaluating and weighing the pros and cons. If Liu Yunpeng lost, it would be his turn. There was no need for him to fight with Chu Yang. What he had to consider was whether he should submit to Chu Yang or choose to die. Wild dog, you're really funny. You still dare to be so arrogant at this time. Liu Yunpeng's eyes were cold and murderous. Wild dog, show me your tricks. I'll let you see what you can do to me, as you wish. The smile on Chu Yang's face completely disappeared. He knew that he had to use some trump cards. Bang! Behind him, a pair of demons appeared. His entire body was covered in demonic armor, making him look like a small demon. With a loud rumble, an abyss devil appeared behind him. It was more than 1,000 feet tall, and it seemed to have appeared out of nowhere. It stood behind him. In an instant, the auras of darkness, evilness, brutality, insanity and other auras swept through the entire sky. Even the wails of living beings before their tragic deaths and the sounds of being chewed resounded in everyone's ears, causing everyone to instantly shudder. All the hairs on their bodies stood on end, as though they had fallen into an ice cave. What's that? Wild dog, what kind of tricks did he use? Why does it feel more terrifying than the heavenly rock demonic blade? I feel like I can feel the aura of hell. Amidst the panic, Xia Wanjin frowned and looked at the demonic figure behind Chu Yang. He muttered to himself, is that a demon? A real demon? Ji Yinmeng's delicate body trembled. She gritted her teeth and said, this bastard is more terrifying than a demon. What's a demon? Ji Yinyin curled her lips at her sister's action. She's really taking advantage of others and still acting like she's innocent. Where can I find such a powerful and shameless brother-in-law? How many tricks does this wild dog have? Liu Yunpeng was also shocked. This was completely different from Chu Yang's previous tricks. Kill, as soon as he moved, the great solar gold rock behind him moved as well. Its huge golden claws tore through the heavens and earth and grabbed at Chu Yang. It wanted to kill all life and slaughter all heroes in the world. Boom! Chu Yang's fist met Liu Yunpeng's. The demon behind him was incomparably ferocious. It smashed its fist towards the great sun golden rock, colliding with the divine rock's giant claw. A huge explosion erupted, and the mountains below trembled. Those mountains that had originally collapsed, now even more large rocks rolled down. Ah! All the spectators present were struck by the sound waves. Many of them retreated in pain, and many of them even covered their ears. Such sound waves seemed to have pierced through their eardrums. They were in excruciating pain, and their heads were buzzing. Boom! Liu Yunpeng and the great solar gold rock became one. Chu Yang also became one with the demon. The demon's power shook the gold rock and resisted the supreme secret technique of the rock race. The battle shook the heavens and earth. Every time they collided, the energy that erupted would ruthlessly wreak havoc on this part of the world. Wild Dog actually blocked it again. The supreme secret technique of the rock race could even kill Buddhas in ancient times. How can a mere demon block it? Everyone was shocked. Liu Yunpeng's supreme killing technique was extremely terrifying. That great solar gold rock seemed to be a derivative of the Tao. It could kill Buddhas and kill all life with just a thought from Liu Yunpeng. Wild dog, let's see how many times you can block it. As long as my realm is high enough, I can even kill Buddhas. You're nothing. A mere demon is nothing. Buddhas subduing demons, don't you know? Liu Yunpeng's words were filled with killing intent. Chapter 1448. At this moment, the Buddha on the rock's beak seemed to have submitted to the great sun gold rock. It burst out with dazzling Buddhist light, and the mantra of the 6 sons of Buddhism resounded. Finally, it merged with the great sun gold rock, killing everything. Buddha was a natural nemesis of demons. The Buddha and the great sun gold rock merged together to deal with the demon. Chu Yang immediately felt a great pressure. This secret technique was indeed terrifying. If this continued, he would suffer a great loss. Liu Yunpeng's eyes were cold as he looked down at Chu Yang. Every time he controlled the great sun gold rock to attack, it was as if he could split the heavens and earth. Chu Yang was forced to use the devil soul. Otherwise, if he was not careful, he would really be in danger. His entire body was like a demon. Billowing demonic energy surged, and demonic light shone in all directions. His entire body was like the gate to hell. Roar! The demon behind him, under the support of the Devil Dark Emperor, roared and suddenly grew to 500 feet tall. Its demonic aura overflowed the sky. It opened its huge mouth and directly swallowed the great sun gold rock. This is still a demon. This demon is too abnormal. Such a change left everyone dumbfounded. They felt that this was simply too inconceivable. If it was just a demon, how could it have such power? The demons of hell were absolutely not so terrifying. Otherwise, Xie Wanjin would not have been able to subdue 4 demons. Waha, Chu Hang is really vengeful. If you dare to eat me once, I will eat you 100 times. The parrot laughed strangely. Boom. However, just as the great sun gold rock was sucked in, the demon's figure suddenly shook violently. The great sun gold rock could be seen flying freely inside the demon's body. It quickly shattered the demon's phantom and flew out. Ha ha. Wild dog, a mere demon wants to fight against the great sun gold rock? You are simply ignorant. Liu Yunpeng laughed loudly, revealing a mouth full of white teeth. He looked so sinister, as if he was the demon. Boom. Chu Yang didn't answer. This time, he fully activated his devil soul. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, a devil phantom appeared behind him, as if it had walked out from hell. The battle between the supreme devil shadow and the great sun gold rock was even more devastating this time. The demonic aura surged and drowned everything. The golden light and the Buddha's aura tore through the darkness and rushed out, entangling with each other. For a long time, the outcome could not be determined. Chu Yang felt a chill in his heart. He had refined the 7 souls of the Darkness Devil Emperor and turned them into his own, but he actually couldn't gain the upper hand when he used them. This supreme offensive technique of the Rock Clan far exceeded his imagination. The more he fought, the more frightened he became. Unknowingly, the sun had already set in the west. The battle with Liu Yunpeng was simply the longest and most intense battle he'd ever fought with anyone. This Liu Yunpeng is truly unparalleled in strength. The unparalleled brilliance and magnificence of the Peng race's secret techniques were all released by him. I'm afraid he is even more terrifying than the real big-winged golden Peng, many people exclaimed again and again, and they were even more frightened. Suddenly, they were even more in awe of Liu Yunpeng. Especially when everyone compared their own combat strength to Liu Yunpeng's, there wasn't a single one of them who didn't feel fear and trepidation. Practically every single one of them felt a chill run through their bodies, and their arrogance was completely lost. Liu Yunpeng was definitely not weaker than those hidden supreme geniuses of the Sky Academy. He was even much stronger. The wild dog is also very amazing and terrifying. Liu Yunpeng released the supreme secret skill of the Rock Clan, but he didn't fall into a disadvantageous position at all. He's just a wild dog. His foundation is not as profound as Liu Yunpeng's, and he didn't get the guidance of a sage like Liu Yunpeng. In fact, the people of the Sky Academy and Chu Yang were even more shocked. Logically speaking, Chu Yang couldn't be Liu Yunpeng's opponent at all. Chapter 1449. In front of others, Chu Yang didn't want to expose his divine skills, nor did he want to reveal his destiny martial soul, his biggest trump card. However, he didn't want to continue. His original intention was to make Liu Yunpeng submit to him and intimidate the people of the Sky Academy. If he continued, he wouldn't have any prestige left. At this time, Liu Yunpeng was also tired of it. He had been wary of Chu Yang's doppelganger, but Chu Yang hadn't used it yet. He smiled sinisterly and said, "Wild dog, if you don't use your ability, I'm afraid you won't have another chance. I'll send you to hell now." Oh no, Liu Yunpeng still has a supreme saint art that he hasn't used yet. As soon as Ji Yinmeng felt the change in Liu Yunpeng's chi, her face changed. She instantly thought of Sage Rock behind Liu Yunpeng. Sage Rock was famous for his arrogance in the East Continent. He was known as the most arrogant gold rock and the most arrogant demon saint in history. If Liu Yunpeng got all of his inheritance, it would be unimaginable. Rock-cleaving formula. Liu Yunpeng roared. His hair turned golden and danced wildly in the wind, looking incomparably wild. Demonic chi surged out from his body and in an instant, he seemed to have transformed into a heavenly demon. Endless golden light shot up into the sky. The grand sun gold rock disappeared silently as if its curtain had fallen. It was replaced by another gold rock, which completely merged with Liu Yunpeng. His flesh and blood also changed. He completely changed from a human to a demon, turning into a big-winged gold rock bird. As his wings flapped gently, endless gang chi swept out, making it seem as if it had turned into the 9 heavens. Mountains collapsed and the earth cracked. His combat strength was shocking. He still has a trump card. Swish. Chu Yang felt the most terrifying threat. It was as if he had touched death. All the hair on his body stood on end as he quickly retreated. His face was also filled with shock. Liu Yunpeng's battle prowess had suddenly increased by too much, and what made his heart palpitate the most was the aura circulating around Liu Yunpeng's body. Pengming/Dao formula. Heavens, is it really the Pengming Dao art? Peng Saint's supreme saint technique. The Peng Saint is known as the craziest gold rock in history. The reason for this is because it created the beheading Peng Dao art. It wanted to kill the Kuan Peng and open up a brand new evolutionary path for the Peng race. It would no longer be restricted by the Kuan Peng. The Peng Saint didn't even put the Kuan Peng in his eyes, and even more disdained to transform the gold rock into a Kuan Peng. He was determined to open up a new Dao and reach the highest peak. Thus, he was trapped in the saint realm for many years, unable to break through. The Pengming Dao art is not only a supreme offensive saint art, but also a transcendent saint art. Once it is completed, its power is unimaginable. Among the crowd, those who had heard of the Pengming Dao art were in an uproar at this moment. The Peng Radiance Dao art was too famous and too shocking. Many unmatched characters commented that if Peng Saint could do it in the end, he would be one of the most powerful existences in history. He would even create a new precedent. The Pengming Dao art was not aimed at the gold rock, but the Kuan Peng. The Kuan Peng was the highest aspiration of the Peng race, the most supreme existence. However, there was a gold rock that disdained to be a Kuan Peng and wanted to slay the Kuan Peng to open up a brand new path. What kind of character was this? What kind of existence was this? When Chu Yang heard this, he suddenly felt a burst of panic in his heart. Needless to say, the secret technique created by such an existence was absolutely extraordinary. However, it was only for a moment. Chu Yang's thoughts changed, and this panic disappeared in an instant. It was replaced by excitement. He also created his own art, the limitless body, the limitless soul, and the Tai Chi art. Walking on the same path, the Peng Saint was born before him. He could completely use it as a reference. If the Peng Saint personally used it, he would simply be courting death. However, if Liu Yunpeng used it, it was a heaven-sent opportunity. This was an opportunity that could not be missed. It was a good fortune that was delivered to his hands. Although it was dangerous, it was worth a try. Chapter 1450. Chu Yang's limitless body and Taiji technique were only hastily created. Although the foundation was laid, there were still too many inadequacies. He would definitely be able to comprehend a lot from fighting Peng Saint's self-created technique. Pentagram reversing heaven star and 5 elements heaven circulating ring. He didn't have the confidence to face Peng Saint before, but he did it in the end. As their master, how could Chu Yang hold him back? He didn't even have this kind of courage. He was about to fight the most arrogant Peng Saint in history, the saint technique he created. Chu Yang slowly became so excited that his hands started to tremble, as if he was about to meet his idol in his previous life. Ha. He didn't restrain himself, directly laughing loudly in front of everyone. You're arrogant, I'm even more arrogant. Fighting Peng Saint from a distance, he really couldn't hide his excitement. Although he was a little apprehensive before, worried that he wouldn't be a match, that he would suffer a crushing defeat, all of it vanishing into thin air. While he was young, while he could toss and turn, he definitely had to have the thickest brush and ink on the chapter of his life, drawing out a regretless youth. Every day that he didn't dance was a day that he failed to live up to his expectations. Chu Yang's laughter made many people confused. Only the parrot and the others knew that Chu Hang definitely picked up a great bargain. That was why he was laughing so lowly. As for Xiong Longxiang, he held his forehead, thinking, Liu Yunpeng is probably in trouble, angering this new master of his. Wild dog, what are you laughing at? Liu Yunpeng felt Chu Yang's blazing battle intent, and was furious beyond measure. A saint technique like Peng beheading Dao technique, those who faced it would only feel fear. Chu Yang acting like this was the greatest humiliation to him. Ha. Chu Yang laughed loudly. Liu Yunpeng, you won't understand even if I tell you, but I have to thank you. Make your move, don't make me wait too long. He was too arrogant. Liu Yunpeng really couldn't bear it. Wild dog, die for me. Peng beheading Dao technique first style. I live. Rumble. A huge golden egg appeared. Crack. Cracks appeared on the eggshell. As soon as the cracks appeared, bolts of lightning formed and bombarded Chu Yang. At the same time, a chick was born from the egg. It was as if the ruler of heaven and earth had been born, and it was as if the god of death had descended. The power of laws surged, and an immense destructive power engulfed Chu Yang. I am born, the will of Saint Rock's birth. Sage Peng had defined his birth as an event that would shock the world and influence the ages. It looked like life, but to Chu Yang, it was death. It was the greatest terror. Ha. However, he wasn't afraid. He laughed loudly. Saint Peng's arrogance and methods didn't disappoint him. Limitless Tai Kai. Chu Yang roared in his heart as he activated the limitless body. Instantly, his blood boiled as the heavenly spirit world and myriad gods' world that were hidden within his body started to move. Suddenly, the sound of the great Tao rumbled. Yin and Yang appeared, causing the world he was in to become completely blurry. It was as if it was returning to the primal chaos, and then a small world was being developed there. Rumble. Chu Yang's hands moved, and the trajectory that they formed seemed to be the trajectory of Tao. It was perfect and flawless. A yin fish and a yang fish appeared, and then formed a Tai Kai diagram. The aura of the great Tao became even more violent, causing the entire world to tremble. Go. Chu Yang was like the commander of an army. He waved his hand fiercely, and the yin fish rushed out. It suddenly opened its mouth and swallowed all the lightning. The young fish then rushed out and suddenly spat out. It was as if the endless lightning that the yin fish had swallowed was released, and all of it fell on the chick. The yin fish and yang fish seemed to be connected. The lightning only flowed between the two, and immediately the stars moved, reversing everything. Everyone was stunned. Chapter 1451. Rumble. Chu Yang's Tai Chi Dao collided with Sage Peng's first move. In an instant, the baby bird was killed by the lightning, and the phenomenon it formed shattered. Liu Yunpeng screamed and was sent flying. He spat out blood and his body trembled. Then, he looked at Chu Yang in disbelief. The Peng slashing Dao art could block that. What? How is this possible? The most arrogant sage Peng in history is likely to be the most supreme figure in the future. His Peng-slashing Dao art actually defeated it. How did Wild Dog do it? It's true. Wild Dog is actually so amazing. Countless people were shocked and in disbelief. They felt like they were in a dream. Everything else aside, this was a saint technique. The Peng-slashing Dao art was too famous. Sage Peng had created it to break free from the Kuan Peng's shackles. Many supreme figures were amazed when they talked about this technique. They admired Sage Peng's talent. However, they never thought that it would appear in front of people again today. Xie Wanjin's eyes were already shaking. He was a disciple of the Xie family in Zhengzhou, so he knew more about the Peng-slashing Dao art than others. Therefore, he knew how terrifying it was. The Peng-slashing Dao art was so famous because it was invincible. Sage Peng had never been defeated when he used it, and his name shook Zhengzhou. Sage Peng was not only the most arrogant sage, but also the most powerful sage. Cough, cough, cough. Liu Yunpeng coughed up blood again and again. In the end, he suppressed the shock in his heart. Golden light flowed in his body, and his eyes burst out with a ferocious light. He was like a beast, staring at Chu Yang. This result was too difficult for him to accept. His grandfather's supreme saint technique had never been defeated, but now it was humiliated in his hands. Boom! Liu Yunpeng's anger flared up. His body stood straight like a javelin, revealing a cruel expression. His snow-white teeth were eerie. Wild Dog, don't be too arrogant. This is only the weakest form of the Pengming Dao art. You will definitely die. His body was stained with blood. At this moment, he was like a blood-soaked azura. His hatred was higher than the sky, and his killing intent was about to break the sky. Golden Dharma power surged around him, and his eyes were as cold as lightning. I didn't expect a saint technique like the Peng-slashing Dao art to be used in this battle. After today, Liu Yunpeng can master such a supreme saint technique. His reputation, after today, not many people will dare to provoke him. Now, Chu Yang is even more terrifying. He doesn't have a saint behind him, but he can actually resist a saint technique. If he doesn't die today, who would dare to provoke him in the future? Who would dare to call him a wild dog? Yes, Chu Yang's level is not something we can participate in. Only the supreme geniuses of the Sky Academy are qualified to provoke him. If we get involved, we will definitely be smashed to pieces and die without knowing how. No one present could calm down. Everyone's face was full of shock, and their hearts were pounding violently. Some were even thinking about the far-reaching impact of this battle. Chu Yang did not respond to Liu Yunpeng's provocation. He was still carefully comprehending his own technique and the first move of the Peng-slashing Dao art. The second move of the Peng-slashing Dao art, I am king. Liu Yunpeng roared and performed the Peng-slashing Dao art again. Suddenly, the world was blazing. A ray of light fell from the sky and formed a throne. Sitting on it was a man with a rock head and a human body. He was like an immortal king sitting high in the 9 levels of heaven, looking down on all living things. Chapter 1452. What a bold move. Such arrogance. However, Chu Yang liked it. Ha ha. Amidst his laughter, an invisible murderous intent erupted like a volcano. It was like an endless wave. Everywhere it went, it destroyed all life, as if it wanted to turn the entire world into a giant tomb. The majesty of a king also spread out, and that unparalleled pressure made everyone present unable to help but kneel down. Only a few people were spared. Boom. The figure on the throne seemed to have felt Chu Yang's disrespect towards him. His huge hand slammed down, and the void collapsed. Endless waves of energy rushed towards Chu Yang like a flood from a dam. It was endless, and it would not stop until Chu Yang was dead. It was an incomparably terrifying technique, and it was difficult to resist. It was as if the rock sage was attacking a mortal like an ant through space and time. It made people despair. Chu Yang's heart trembled. His godly demon martial spirit was madly deducing, but he did not understand the mystery. He did not want to immediately attack, so he decisively retreated, and used the Kuan Peng secret technique given to him by the Ice Kuan to resist. Rumble. Chu Yang's half-step divine force and half-step spiritual power fused, and a scene appeared. In a world of ice and snow, there were endless icebergs, resisting the endless waves of energy. In the sea, a huge fish jumped up, resisting the huge hand. The scene was terrifying, and everyone was stunned. The figure on the throne was like a king of heaven and earth. His huge hand kept slamming down, and the sky changed color. His attack power was unparalleled. Chu Yang's technique only blocked 3 attacks from the figure on the throne, and it instantly exploded, turning into rolling waves of energy that rushed in all directions. The rock-slashing Dao formula: when such a saint technique is used, how many people can resist it? Such a saint technique to slay the Kuan Peng, it's terrifying just thinking about it. At this time, Xia Wanjin's eyes flickered. When he looked at Liu Yunpeng again, there was a great fear in his eyes, and even awe. As everyone had discussed, the rock-slashing Dao formula was extremely effective against the Kuan Peng technique. Chu Yang's Kuan Peng technique did not have much effect. In addition, he also laughed at himself. How could such a saint technique be deduced in such a short time? I can only comprehend it in battle. How much I can comprehend is up to me. He once again used his way of Tai Kai to resist this terrifying saint technique. At this moment, Chu Yang had no distracting thoughts in his mind. He was detached from worldly matters, and his heart was empty. His hands presented the Taiji Dao. As he pushed his hands forward, one was as black as ink, while the other was as white as jade. The yin fish and yang fish rushed out again, turning into dragons. Then, they each held a divine diagram in their mouths as they rushed towards the unmatched figure on the throne. Wild dog, don't even think about blocking the second move. I'm going to destroy your soul. Liu Yunpeng roared when he felt the supreme qi flowing in his body. The wild light in his eyes became even more ferocious. Boom! In the face of Chu Yang's attack, the king-like figure finally stood up from the throne. It became clearer, and its majesty was inviolable. A demonic saber appeared in his hand. Its murderous aura soared into the sky, and its murderous intent was endless. Blood red surged on the blade. As the saber slashed down, countless demonic lights of slaughter drowned out the world. In an instant, everyone felt a sense of suffocation. Their bodies trembled like sieves, and they all retreated. Instinctive fear spread in their hearts. The young dragon clashed with the demonic blade, and the yin dragon pounced on the supreme figure. A violent explosion occurred, and endless waves of energy swept out. It seemed to contain the great path of slaughter, and the rules seemed to be intertwined within. Endless destructive aura surged. Rumble. Chapter 1453. The second style of the decapitation art was terrifying to the extreme. Fortunately, that figure was also damaged. In the end, it turned into endless radiance that drowned out Chu Yang. It was as if it wanted to kill him before it disappeared. The third style of the decapitation art, ancestor summoning. Liu Yunpeng felt even more humiliated. The second style actually couldn't kill the wild dog. He roared furiously, shaking the mountains. He definitely couldn't bear to see Chu Yang still alive. Thus, he used the third style. Together with the second style, it became even more terrifying. Liu Yunpeng did everything he could to display the decapitation art. Only now did he realize how terrifying Chu Yang was. He could actually block such a saint art. The third style of the decapitation art has been displayed. Ancestor summoning. Legend has it that before the Peng sage decided to abandon the Peng race and stick to the Kuan Peng Great Tao, he wanted to inform the ancestors in advance. The people of the world don't understand. The Peng sage isn't confessing, but informing the ancestors of his ambitions. Countless people cried out in alarm. They widened their eyes, nervously watching everything unfold. Hong. Chu Yang felt as if he was struck by lightning. He coughed out large mouthfuls of blood. This battle was a battle of Dao comprehension, but it was just too savage. The decapitation art was much more terrifying than he imagined. Fortunately, under such pressure, his understanding of the Dao of Tai Kai also deepened. He resisted with all his might. His hands once again drew a similar trajectory. At this moment, His left and right hands seem to have transformed into the yin and yang points of the Tao of Taikai. They each represented the true yin and yang. In the Taikai diagram that evolved, the yin within the yang gave birth to a speck of yin, the yang within the yin gave birth to a speck of yang. This was the embodiment of the Tao of Taichi's extreme changes. The hands were the true yin and yang, evolving an eternal and unchanging law. His left hand was the true yin, pitch black like ink. It transformed into a huge black hole that swallowed all light. Nothing could be seen there. Everyone felt as if their gazes were being swallowed, and even their souls were about to be sucked out. Everyone was horrified. His right hand was the true yang, forming a white hole that erupted with endless light rain. Each ray was a supreme attack. Boom. At the same time, the third style of the Pengming Dao art completely erupted. The terrifying fluctuations were like countless volcanoes erupting, and also like a tsunami surging in the sky. The heavens and the earth were shaking. Terrifying scenes also began to appear. Amidst the resounding cries of the Peng, one gold rock after another descended and merged with Liu Yunpeng. Many terrifying scenes also appeared through time and space. The scenes of the Peng ancestors' great battles in the past reappeared in the human world. Did the Pengming Dao formula summon the ancient ancestor of the Gold Rock clan? This is too shocking. The Gold Rock clan is indeed powerful. Many of the peerless geniuses in the images have been killed by them. They are all lying in pools of blood. Boom. Liu Yunpeng charged towards Chu Yang. His terrifying aura spread out endlessly. Every strike he unleashed seemed to be the supreme attack of the rock race's ancestor. It was terrifying to the extreme. The laws of the great Tao actually appeared at this moment. Boom. Chu Yang's black hole seemed to have been struck by lightning every time it swallowed a gold rock. His body trembled violently and he spat out blood. The shadow of death completely enveloped him. On the other side, gold rock rushed out from the white hole and bombarded Liu Yunpeng's gold rock. Too terrifying. These two are too terrifying. This is only the third style of the Pengming Dao art. The later ones are even more shocking. Liu Yunpeng only used the first three styles, and it's enough to look down on his peers. How many people can block it? Everyone was alarmed. Liu Yunpeng's eyes were bone-chilling. He said, "Wild dog, you definitely can't block it." Boom. Heaven and earth seemed to move with him every time he moved. More and more gold rock rushed out endlessly and produced a great change. The peerless geniuses that had been killed by the Gold Rock clan all appeared at this moment. Their corpses fell to the ground and blood flowed out, making each gold rock even more terrifying. Chu Yang's black hole was the first to be unable to withstand it. It faintly distorted, causing his expression to change instantly. The Tai Chi technique actually contained the profound meaning of the Destiny Twins' martial spirit. Even if he used the Destiny Twins' martial spirit now, the result wouldn't be good. Chapter 1454. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Liu Yunpeng seemed to have completely fused with the void. It was as if he was connected to the ancient times, summoning all the peerless geniuses of the Peng race, allowing them to come one after another. Gold rock after gold rock rushed out in an endless stream. It was as if they were forming a long river of history of the Peng race, blooming with the brilliance of the Peng race. Heavenly Soul World, no one knew how long this world had existed. Until now, the evidence that had been excavated proved that the Heavenly Soul World had experienced at least 5 or 6 earth-shattering catastrophes in its endless history. Many people even speculated that before these 5 or 6 catastrophes, the Heavenly Soul World might have experienced a complete annihilation even earlier. During the Great Annihilation, all living beings in the Heavenly Soul World died, burying the next civilization and the next epoch. In the end, after the endless destruction ended, a new life was born again, and new living beings were born. Not to mention that Great Annihilation, just the 5 or 6 catastrophes that the Heavenly Soul World had experienced in the Desolate Era, Ancient Era, Middle Era, End Era, Recent Era, and so on. Just how many peerless geniuses did the Gold Rock race have? It was impossible to count. At this moment, the Gold Rock birds of various eras crossed the endless river of time and space to appear, once again displaying their ferocious might. Such a scene was simply indescribable. Among the gold rock, the ones with clear figures were fine, but the ones with blurry figures were the most terrifying. Every time they rushed over, it was simply a disaster for Chu Yang. Accompanied by the impact of countless gold rock, the waves of energy became even more turbulent. One after another, they formed 18 visible waves that crashed over. Chu Yang's body cracked even more, and it looked like he was about to be destroyed by the monstrous power. The black hole he created distorted even more, and it was even more difficult to swallow and absorb the power of the third move of the Peng/Dao art. It was injured again and again, coughing out large mouthfuls of blood. The Peng/Dao art is simply too terrifying. Just the third move is already so terrifying. It's as if all the gold rock that had appeared in history are attacking at the same time. This is equivalent to summoning an army, a gold rock army. Even if I can't see the scene in front of me, just thinking about it makes my scalp go numb. Luckily, Liu Yunpeng's cultivation level is too low. He can't even unleash 1% of its power. Otherwise, Wild Dog would have been reduced to ashes. Boom! Chu Yang's body shook violently again, and blood gushed out from the cracks. He had nowhere to hide even if he wanted to. One by one, the gold rock fiercely bombarded him without a single break, completely drowning him. The space he was in was filled with billowing demonic chi. Even the laws of the Gold Rock clan seemed to be cutting through this space. This made him feel like the end of the world was near. From the eastern wilderness to the east continent, Chu Yang had experienced many great battles, but this was the first time he had felt so uneasy. It was also the first time that he had such a strong sense of foreboding. The feeling of death was also the most real, as if he was only a fine line away from death. I can't believe I'm going to fall for this. Am I going to fail miserably? Originally, Chu Yang could have directly assassinated Liu Yunpeng, but in the end, he had underestimated Liu Yunpeng. He also had a chance to correct himself, but he arrogantly thought that this was a great opportunity, or even a great fortune. In the end, things had turned out this way, and he had fallen into a desperate situation. However, he didn't regret it, and he definitely wouldn't regret it. Chapter 1455. His life had never been stupid, nor had it been bleak, nor had it been miserable. He was stupid and bleak only in the eyes of others. How could they have imagined that he would still be able to smile brilliantly in the future? There are countless paths in life, but I just have to do all kinds of things on the path of death. I'm just that selfish, just that willful. Of course, if others wanted him to blame himself and regret, he would cooperate. Cough, cough, cough. Chu Yang kept coughing up blood. It was extremely difficult and dangerous, but he laughed loudly. Haha, is the Pengming Dao art that powerful? I like it. Everyone was nervously watching this battle because the outcome might be decided immediately. Most people also felt that Chu Yang would not be able to hold on. However, they never expected that Chu Yang would actually laugh while covered in blood. He seemed to be extremely happy. What was going on? Could it be that Chu Yang still had a trump card? Did you see that? The parrot was originally very worried. At this moment, he let out a long sigh of relief. However, he pretended to be wise and lectured Kui Xinhu and the others. You three idiots shouldn't be worried about this. Chu Hang's despicable skills have reached the peak of perfection. Without a deep foundation in despicable skills, who would want to kill him? Kui Xinhu and the others could not help but nod in agreement. They felt that this made a lot of sense. The parrot continued, what you should be worried about is how to sing the praises of Chu Hang when he wins. That's the most important thing. Don't get the main point wrong. The three of them were speechless. However, it seemed that this was the truth. If Chu Yang were to win, flattery wouldn't be enough. After all, he wouldn't be happy if he didn't flatter him enough. At this moment, Chu Yang was extremely relaxed. If this was the last moment of his life, he would enjoy it to the fullest. If this was the last glory of his life, he would bask in it to the fullest. Therefore, his thoughts became more and more active. He suddenly realized that there was actually a simple way to deal with it, Wuji. If Taiji was not enough, then he would use the grand answer. Wouldn't it be easier to use the higher level of Wuji? Haha. At the most critical moment of his life, Chu Yang mocked himself in his heart and laughed loudly. Little golden rooster, your grandpa Chu is going to show his power. You better get into the horse stance and stand properly. Don't be scared. Limitless. He roared inwardly. His long hair flew about, eyes extremely dazzling, like two little suns, erupting with dazzling light. His entire being was extremely wild. Rumble. The white hole in his right hand and the black hole in his left hand collided and fused together. In an instant, there was a huge rumbling sound as a supreme aura burst out and wiped out all of the gold rock that was coming from different dimensions. His entire body was also greatly shaken, and the cracks on his body became even more severe. Even half of his spine was exposed, but his smile became even more brilliant. At this moment, his heart was completely empty. He felt as if he had stepped into an indescribable space. Endless mysteries flowed in his heart. It was as if Chu Yang had crossed the heavenly moat and reached the other side, the world of his dreams. Time seemed to have stopped at this moment. Rumble. However, that stillness was instantly shattered. The void shattered, and the sky seemed to have been overturned. The endless earth seemed to have sunk forever. Everything no longer existed. Everything returned to the primordial chaos. Everything was about to return to zero. Chapter 1456. In this battle of life and death, Chu Yang had comprehended a lot, whether it was yin-yang, tai chi, or wuji. He even felt that he had comprehended many laws of the great Tao. Even though he almost died, killed by the Pengbright Tao art, the rewards were proportional to the risks. Not only did his Tao successfully go from theory to actual combat, becoming a real existence, it even became a supreme technique. This was the first time his Tao had evolved in front of people, the first time it had blossomed in glory. This was a day that could be commemorated. Haha. Chu Yang was in a good mood, his heart was filled with a sense of accomplishment. In the past, he had relied on the Destiny twins to achieve many of his successes. However, this time, he had completely relied on himself. If he were to return to his original world, he was confident that he would become an influential figure. His every move would affect the whole world. Boom. A terrifying explosion and endless waves of energy wreaked havoc. Chu Yang's whole body was covered in blood. He was seriously injured, but his smile was even more brilliant. His 8 teeth were exposed as he basked in the sun and asked where the sun was. Of course, he was happy, but the other side was miserable. Liu Yunpeng screamed miserably. It was as if a man had encountered an evil ghost, a demon. The third form of the Pengming Dao art, ancestral summoning, was completely broken and obliterated. The void behind him exploded, as if an endless passage of time and space had completely collapsed and shattered at this moment. As the summoner, he suffered a great backlash and impact. The impact was incomparably fierce and terrifying. Almost in an instant, 7 or 8 bloody holes were pierced through Liu Yunpeng's body. His torso was penetrated from front to back, as if 7 or 8 tunnels had been opened, causing the isolated world to brighten up. With such a heavy injury, no matter how majestic Liu Yunpeng was, his blood-stained body could only fall to the ground like a wooden stake. His eyes were filled with fear and shock, as well as many expressions of disbelief. Impossible, how is this possible? There are only 4 moves in the Pengming Dao art. My grandfather could only use it once to kill the enemy without leaving a trace. He rarely used the 3rd move. I have never seen him use the 4th move, but I used the 3rd move and still couldn't kill the wild dog. How is this possible? The fear in his heart was pulled apart and magnified infinitely. Because of his fear, he didn't dare to ignore it and began to scream. Liu Yunpeng clearly remembered how arrogant he was just now. He had repeatedly said that he would kill the wild dog and even laughed at the wild dog for foolishly falling into his trap. How could Chu Yang let him off so easily? Even if he wanted to beg for mercy and submit now, there was really no chance left. Pengming Dao Formula, 4th form, slaying the Kuan Peng, Transcendence. Liu Yunpeng desperately wanted to perform the 4th move, but it was extremely difficult for him to perform it. Even if he shouted himself hoarse, it was impossible for him to perform it immediately. He needed a certain amount of time to prepare. Hehe, little golden rooster, that's it. You no longer have a chance. Chu Yang wouldn't regret it, but he would learn from his mistakes and reflect on himself. He had already deeply felt the terror of the Pengming Dao art. At this time, how could he let Liu Yunpeng perform it again? If that was the case, not only would others think that he was stupid, but he would really be stupid. He sneered. With a swoosh, his afterimage was still in the same place, but he had already rushed over and mercilessly attacked. At this moment, how could Liu Yunpeng fight with Chu Yang? He quickly retreated and madly widened the distance between them. However, although he had the speed of Gold Rock, it was a pity that his opponent was Chu Yang. How could Chu Yang's speed be slower than the speed of Gold Rock? Chapter 1457. Swoosh. As soon as he finished speaking, Chu Yang's speed suddenly increased and he caught up with Liu Yunpeng in an instant. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Chu Yang's big hand slapped down. It was as black as a demon. A Taiji yin diagram appeared in his palm and the yin fish swam in his palm, shaking the void. Rumble. Liu Yunpeng had no choice but to fight back. The fourth style of the rock-slashing art was forcefully interrupted. He spat out blood again and resisted with great difficulty. Boom, boom, boom. The two's battle was not as intense as before, but it was more tragic than before. Every time they clashed, the void would shake violently. Endless light would burst out and the wind would howl. Ah! Liu Yunpeng screamed again and again. After Chu Yang had a deeper understanding of his Taiji technique, Liu Yunpeng was even more difficult to resist. He suffered a great loss in the collision. His blocking left hand was completely deformed and dripping with blood. No one knew how many bones were broken, and there were even many terrifying wounds. Boom! Chu Yang attacked again and again. He wanted to kill Liu Yunpeng and not give him any chance. Everyone watching the battle was shocked. The one who lost in the end was actually Liu Yunpeng, who had mastered the Saint technique. Obviously, if this continued, this would be a battle of life and death. The curtains would soon be drawn. Bang, bang, bang. Boom, boom, boom. The bitter collision caused Liu Yunpeng to cry out loudly. His pupils turned vertical, and fear and anger merged together, both of them reaching their peak. If he didn't live, then he would die. He had also completely thrown caution to the wind and grasped at the last life-saving straw. He madly displayed the fourth style of the rock-slashing art. Phut! Liu Yunpeng was distracted and lost quickly. His injuries were even more serious. Blood spurted out as his left arm was chopped off by Chu Yang. Blood stained the sky. Ah! Liu Yunpeng once again let out a mournful cry, his voice making everyone who heard it feel desolate. His left arm was cut off and blood spurted out. Half of his body was dyed even redder. Peng! His life source surged, consuming it. An arrow of blood shot out from his severed arm, turning into a wave of golden flames that burned through everything, burning the void until it seemed to be curling up. This golden flame was extraordinary. The destructive aura within it surged, causing that expanse of space to be completely destroyed and become a terrifying place. Liu Yunpeng's blood contained great power because it contained the talent and life imprint of the Rock clan. Whether it was the demon race or the human race, their blood contained treasures left behind by their ancestors. Once opened and the secrets within were unearthed, they would have unimaginable power. The more powerful the ancestor was, the more shocking and terrifying the hidden treasures in the bloodline would be. Once it was revealed, the divine might would be unimaginable. Although Liu Yunpeng was a half-human half-demon, his bloodline still contained the bloodline of the Gold Rock clan. He had consumed his life source to trigger the power hidden in his blood. How could it be ordinary? Chu Yang was confident of victory, so he naturally wouldn't risk his life to fight Liu Yunpeng, let alone let him have his way. That was because Liu Yunpeng wanted to destroy both jade and common stone. He was determined to bite off Chu Yang's bones even if he had to die. He definitely wouldn't let Chu Yang have an easy time before he died. He was so crazy that his whole body was almost burning. Crackling sounds came from all over his body. Chu Yang temporarily avoided the attack. With a swoosh, He retreated hundreds of meters away. Liu Yunpeng's hair was stained with blood as he cried out in pain. Because Chu Yang had temporarily stopped, he recovered. His eyes were immediately filled with disbelief. One of my arms was actually cut off. After temporarily escaping death, this was the first thought that came to his mind. It could be seen how proud he was. It was simply indescribable. Chapter 1458. His eyes were filled with madness, and his face was completely distorted. His entire being became ferocious, and in the end, his head turned into a rock's head. He roared at the top of his lungs, "I, Liu Yunpeng, will never lose." Everyone watching the battle was shocked. Everyone was terrified from the bottom of their hearts as they watched this scene. Liu Yunpeng had completely gone crazy. He roared towards the sky. His hair, which was dyed gold, stood on end. His eyes emitted a crazed and chaotic light. The golden light on his body was like raging flames as it danced, causing them to feel an indescribable sadness in their hearts. So what if he was as powerful and heaven-defying as Liu Yunpeng? He was still going to lose to Chu Yang. It was a tragedy to make an enemy of someone like Chu Yang, and it made people despair. Xia Wanjin's pupils almost shrank into a single pupil. Chu Yang's battle strength made him feel a chill. That was the Pengming art, an unparalleled saint art, but it still couldn't kill the wild dog. He even had a thought in his mind: Chu Yang was invincible, and he would never lose. Xiong Longxiang was also deeply shocked. He thought that he already knew how terrifying Chu Yang was, but now he felt that it was ridiculous. Chu Yang didn't use any of his original methods, but he still blocked the Pengming art, a saint art like the Pengming art. Such a person was probably not someone he could imagine. Ji Yinmeng was slender and graceful. She looked at Chu Yang in the air, and light flowed in her beautiful eyes. Under the shroud of fog, no one could see her peerless face, and they didn't know what kind of expression she had right now. However, Ji Yinyin could clearly read Ji Yinmeng's feelings from the light in her eyes, the trembling of her delicate body, and the subtle spiritual fluctuations. It was an extraordinary tremor. Ji Yinyin felt that even if her sister immediately married Chu Yang, there wouldn't be much resistance. Chu Yang closed in once again. Liu Yunpeng roared, shaking the mountains and rivers. He went crazy. Under his will, the heavenly rock manic blade once again rushed out. It was originally 5 feet long, but it instantly became 10 feet long. It took the initiative to attack Chu Yang and buy time for Liu Yunpeng to execute the 4th style of the Pengming Dao art. Naive. Chu Yang smiled indifferently. He didn't use the quintuple anti-heaven star and the 5 elements heaven circulating ring again. Instead, he drew a yin and yang pattern with his hands, forming a vortex. With a fierce whirl, he directly swept away the demonic saber with a threatening aura. Feathery Peng sword. Liu Yunpeng once again displayed this secret technique of the Rock Clan. The golden light became even more resplendent. The dazzling light was like 10,000 golden sword rays. It was extremely terrifying. Clang, clang, clang. What was different was that this time, there weren't golden spears, but rather divine swords. They were all 3 zhong long, towering in the void like an army, mountains of blades and forests of swords, extremely intimidating. The sword rays that each divine sword emitted seemed to have millions of pounds of divine power. They were so densely packed that they seemed to have gathered into a sea of divine swords. A terrifying golden storm swept over, destroying all obstacles. It could even wipe out an army of thousands of men and horses. This kind of power was simply unimaginable. It was as if the end of the world had arrived, and the world seemed to be collapsing. Many people saw this secret technique of the Rock Clan again, but they still felt a chill from head to toe. This made them even more unable to imagine how terrifying the Pengming Dao art was, which was much more terrifying than this. Little golden rooster, it's useless. You want to use this petty trick to stall for time? That's just wishful thinking. You can die now. Facing the sea of swords, Chu Yang drew a yin and yang symbol with his hands. It was as if he was parting the grass. He parted all the golden divine swords that were piercing towards him. He was like a snake parting the grass as he went straight for Liu Yunpeng. In the eyes of the crowd, the incomparably terrifying divine swords were like grass to Chu Yang. They were no threat at all. Wild dog, you forced me to do this. Liu Yunpeng faced upwards and roared madly. He didn't dare to face Chu Yang's attack. His entire body's blood and energy surged, and transformed into metal. The terrifying energy around his body surged like a huge wave, and overflowed into the sky. Chapter 1459. Even at this moment, he still wanted to kill Chu Yang. His killing intent increased instead of decreasing. Little golden rooster, you won't have the chance, Chu Yang sneered. The Pengming art was too terrifying. With his current strength, it would be difficult for him to resist. Otherwise, he wouldn't mind experiencing this supreme technique created by Sage Peng in the distant Zhengzhou. He turned into a divine light and rushed over. His left hand drew a true yin trajectory, while his right hand drew a true yang trajectory. He wanted to directly cut Liu Yunpeng in half. Clang! The heavenly Peng manic saber returned and blocked this terrifying attack. However, it was not damaged. Instead, one of the seals on it was undone. In an instant, the void there collapsed. A terrifying murderous aura flooded towards Chu Yang like a huge wave. Chu Yang had launched such a tyrannical attack. It was supposed to be unstoppable and destroy everything. However, it was blocked just like that. It's really difficult to deal with. Chu Yang frowned. The heavenly Peng manic saber was a saint weapon. It was impossible to destroy it. The only way to kill Liu Yunpeng was to let it go. Just as he was about to use the spacetime technique to teleport to Liu Yunpeng's side and kill Liu Yunpeng Keek, Liu Yunpeng bared his white teeth and looked at Chu Yang. He laughed like a demon. He was extremely arrogant and cold, but the aura that suddenly appeared on his body was extremely terrifying. It was as if a demon god from hell had broken through the seal and broken out. Liu Yunpeng opened one arm and looked up at the sky. He was extremely intoxicated, but his voice was extremely cold. I finally succeeded. The fourth form of the Pengming art, that terrifying aura became even stronger, so much so that everyone present could feel it. In an instant, everyone's heart palpitated. It was as if looking at Liu Yunpeng was like looking at the god of death. Every one of them couldn't help but tremble, and many of them directly fell to the ground. In the distance, in the endless mountains, regardless of whether it was birds or beasts on land, after a moment of panic, they all trembled and bowed in the direction Liu Yunpeng was facing. What the hell? If he couldn't win, he would run. Chu Yang was also very scared and decisively fled. Wild dog, you chased me just now. Now, you still want to run? Liu Yunpeng was extremely cold. He gritted out every word as if every word was filled with blood and tears. He didn't chase after Chu Yang, but his strange aura shrouded Chu Yang no matter where he escaped to. At this moment, Liu Yunpeng's low voice was like a vicious curse that resounded in everyone's heart. However, the strange thing was that Liu Yunpeng was cutting himself. First, his right arm was chopped off. Then, his legs were chopped off. Finally, his head was chopped off as well. His torso was cut in half. Peng. Under the effect of the strange power, Liu Yunpeng's cut-off limbs were ignited. They burned fiercely and soon turned to ashes, leaving nothing behind. What was this? Self-destruction? Everyone was shocked. What kind of peerless saint art was the Pengming art? The fourth form was so strange that no one could understand it. Chu Yang couldn't escape, so he stopped. That force was already wreaking havoc in his body, and wanted to kill him. He was also a little confused. Liu Yunpeng is going to destroy everything. He used his life as the price to display the fourth form of the Pengming art. Chapter 1460. Boom. After the flames burned Liu Yunpeng's body, they did not disappear immediately. At the place where Liu Yunpeng had been, a cluster of golden flames burned fiercely. In the center of the flames, a golden egg appeared. Crack. From the golden egg, a young pengbird was born. Chirp chirp. The young roc chirped. In an instant, a crown, a scepter, and a throne appeared out of thin air. The crown fell on the young rock's head, the scepter fell into its wings, and the throne appeared directly below it, allowing it to sit nobly on it. Chirp! The rock's high-pitched chirp sounded again. In the midst of a loud rumble, it was as if the endless time and space had been opened again. From the depths of time and space, gold rock flew out, surrounding the young rock and chirping loudly. The scene was astonishing. Everyone was stunned. The fourth move of the Pengming/Dao incantation was simply mysterious and divine. At this moment, even though Chu Yang was enveloped by the strange power, he could not help but pay attention to this scene. He was horrified. What did he see? The first move of the Pengming/Dao incantation, I live. The second move of the Pengming/Dao incantation, I am king. The third move of the Pengming/Dao incantation, ancestral summoning. Chu Yang was shocked to discover that the process of Liu Yunpeng's resurrection was the first three moves of the Pengming/Dao incantation. Liu Yunpeng was definitely not dead. He had only made such a choice because his injuries were too serious. Chu Yang finally understood why Liu Yunpeng wouldn't admit defeat even if he died. The Pengming/Dao incantation was simply too terrifying and mysterious. It was difficult to describe with words. If Chu Yang had such a saint technique in his hands, he would never admit defeat. Why would he admit defeat? There was no reason for him to do so. Roar. Suddenly, a dragon's roar resounded in Chu Yang's spiritual world. At this moment, he realized that the flood dragon martial soul was looking at him apologetically. Then, it opened its mouth wide and frantically devoured the strange energy that had sneaked into his body. However, in the blink of an eye, all of the strange energy was completely devoured by the flood dragon martial soul. Little Long Long, what do you mean? Why do I feel like you're looking at me like I'm an idiot? Chu Yang asked the flood dragon martial spirit. He was really a little confused. This kind of power was a great advantage to Liu Yunpeng, but to him, it should be a great horror. But why did the flood dragon martial spirit have such a reaction? Roar. The Jiao dragon martial spirit roared, but it didn't answer Chu Yang. Instead, it was in great pain. Chu Yang could clearly see countless swords and sabers appearing on the body of the flood dragon martial spirit, slowly cutting it apart. In the end, the flood dragon martial spirit was dismembered. Peng. The body of the flood dragon martial spirit that had been cut off suddenly emitted a white flame, burning the flesh and blood that had been cut off. This, Chu Yang instantly understood why the fourth move of the Pengming Dao incantation was called transcendence. This was to cut off one's original body and create a new one. It was just like the severing three corpses that Chu Yang knew. Severing three corpses was the right way. This Peng saint is so bold, so generous. He wants to sever all tangible and intangible restraints, sever all fetters, sever all connections between the Golden Peng and Kuan Peng, forcefully carving out a brand new Grand Dao to transcend. However, if one's foundation was not deep enough and his cultivation was not enough, it would be equivalent to suicide. Chapter 1461. Damn, even the flood dragon martial soul can see through it. How could I not see through it earlier? How embarrassing. Chu Yang carefully sensed the power from before. He no longer felt that it was strange. Instead, he felt that the power was extremely sharp, as if it could cut through everything. At the same time, it possessed an extremely transcendent aura. For Chu Yang, such power was simply a supreme treasure. No wonder the flood dragon martial soul had such a reaction. The more he understood, the more worried he became. The flood dragon martial soul might not be able to survive, just like Liu Yunpeng. Right now, Liu Yunpeng seemed to be very astonishing and amazing, so powerful that it made everyone exclaim in admiration again and again. However, if he was unable to withstand the power of self-destruction in the end and was unable to transcend, he would completely become a dead man, and not even dregs would be left. This rock sage is truly amazing. He created such a cultivation technique that allowed Liu Yunpeng to self-sever and transcend when he was only in the transcendence realm. This is simply inconceivable. The rock sage is definitely a supreme figure, Chu Yang exclaimed in admiration towards the rock sage, whom he had never met before. His admiration for the rock sage grew. There probably weren't many people like him since ancient times. His thoughts instantly became active. Could he self-sever? Could he transcend? Self-severing wasn't for his body. Transcending wasn't for his own body, but for his own Tai Chi technique, the limitless Tao, the Tao that he created himself. Chu Yang currently had the power of the heavenly spirit world and the God's world in his body. It was as if yin and yang had formed a balance in his body. A slight movement would cause an imbalance. This caused him to be unable to advance to the 9th level of the spirit realm, not to mention the soul fusion realm. On the other hand, with his cultivation in the God's world, he couldn't condense a divine spark and cultivate a primordial spirit. This was because he needed to maintain the balance. As for why it was affected, he still didn't know. What he could be sure of was that the entanglement of the two formed a great restriction that bound his hands and feet. Therefore, it would be best if he could sever it and transcend. It could be said that if he could do it, it would be perfect. However, Chu Yang felt that it was impossible. If he severed Tai Chi, he could transcend and become limitless. What about Wuji? If limitless was beheaded, what else could it become? Limitless was the end. How could he transcend? Suddenly, Chu Yang couldn't help but laugh. Who was the one who said that there was no one else after limitless? Could it be that other than limitless, there couldn't be another limitless? This was good. For example, in ancient times, people thought that the sky was round and the earth was square. But what was the truth? This was simply impossible. The sky was not round, and the earth was not square. There was a starry sky outside, and there was a universe. Perhaps, beyond the infinite pole, there existed the so-called having pole. Between Wuji and Yuji, there might be an existence like yin and yang. If a person's knowledge is a circle, then ignorance is the world outside the circle. Therefore, the bigger the circle, the more unknowns one would come into contact with. This was why the more knowledgeable one was, the more ignorant they felt. The mysteries of heaven and earth were endless. What a pity. Chu Yang had already understood everything. However, if he wanted to sever himself and transcend, there was no way. He suddenly had this thought. He hoped that Liu Yunpeng would succeed in sever himself. If Liu Yunpeng succeeded in sever himself, it would be wonderful if he could get a shot. Therefore, he couldn't help but look at Liu Yunpeng worriedly. The cluster of golden flames was burning more and more fiercely. Chapter 1462. In the golden flame, after a while, there was a change. The young rock grew rapidly. 1 jong, 5 jong, 10 jong. In the end, it became 100 jong. Its entire body was shining with golden light. Screech! It spread its wings and flew across the sky, letting out a resounding rock cry. After flying back and forth a few times in the sky, it landed with a boom and transformed into a human. In an instant, Liu Yunpeng appeared in front of everyone again. His body was slender, and he was even more burly than before. His eyes were sharper, and his black hair had turned into long golden hair. His aura was also much more vigorous than before. Nirvana realm. Chu Yang narrowed his eyes. Later, everyone present also realized it and exclaimed in unison, "Oh my God, Liu Yunpeng is now in the Nirvana realm. Not only is he in the Nirvana realm, but he is also at the peak of the 9th level of the Nirvana realm. One more step and he will be in the life and death realm? Oh my God, this saint technique is actually so amazing. Not only can it kill enemies, but it can also increase one's cultivation so quickly. It's simply godly. Is godly enough to describe it? This is completely defying the heavens and subverting everything." Everyone was in disbelief, as if they were witnessing the birth of a miracle with their own eyes. Although Chu Yang was surprised, it was much less. It seems that Liu Yunpeng didn't transcend. He only increased his cultivation. Fortunately, it's only like this. Otherwise, he would definitely die. I think he knows it himself. Roar. In Chu Yang's spiritual world, there was also a joyful dragon cry. It wasn't the dragon cry of a flood dragon, but an orthodox dragon cry. To be exact, it was a frost dragon. After Chu Yang saw that the flood dragon martial soul had transformed into a frost dragon, he realized that there seemed to be a spatial door in its body. His whole body shook. This was a space dragon. The current flood dragon martial soul had two attributes, frost and space. Therefore, it could be called a frost space dragon. Is it because it refined Kong Kwong's soul? The dimension of the frost cave was not created by the ice Kuan alone. Kong Kwong also had half of the credit. That was why after the flood dragon martial spirit transformed, it gained the ice attribute. Fuck, I'll be fine with just one shot. Liu Yunpeng, can you please give me one shot? Chu Yang sensed the changes in his Jiao dragon martial spirit, and his heart burned with passion. He couldn't wait for Liu Yunpeng to use the fourth style of the Peng beheading Dao art on him so that he could break free from the restraints of the heavenly spirit world and the myriad god world. He couldn't wait any longer and directly broke the silence. Liu Yunpeng, most of the power of your fourth style just now was used on you. It doesn't have much effect on me. Come, use your fourth move and use it on me. Let me feel how powerful this so-called Peng saint is. Is it a dragon or a worm? Wild dog, how dare you? Liu Yunpeng roared. His long golden hair seemed to be on fire. His eyes were like heavenly swords as he stared coldly at Chu Yang like a demon god. Less nonsense. Chu Yang had a plan in his heart. He was worried that it would fail. He was a little nervous and tried to provoke Liu Yunpeng again. Peng Saint is very amazing. The so-called Peng beheading Dao art, in my opinion, is only SOSO. What a disappointment. Now that Liu Yunpeng had reached the 9th level of Nirvana realm, Chu Yang was really worried that Liu Yunpeng would use his cultivation to kill him and not use the Peng beheading Dao art. Wild dog, I will kill your soul. Chapter 1463. Little Golden Rooster. Chu Yang sneered, I'm just telling the truth. Didn't you notice what I comprehended just now? The rock-slashing Dao formula is just a whetstone for me. Do you understand? Wild dog, you're too arrogant. I'll kill you until you despair. I'll kill you until you swallow all the words you just said. Liu Yunpeng's face twisted as he gritted his teeth. He couldn't tolerate Chu Yang's contempt for Yu Pengsheng. Little golden rooster, what's the use of saying such harsh word? Chu Yang sneered. I said, can you make your move? After a pause, he laughed. Of course, you can use your Nirvana realm cultivation. But don't say I didn't warn you. Don't regret it when you die. Wild dog. Liu Yunpeng laughed in anger. I'll let you die convinced. No one in the central state dares to despise my grandfather. You're just a wild dog, how dare you? TCH. Chu Yang was full of contempt. He pointed at Liu Yunpeng and said, you're just a little golden rooster. Rock Sage is just an old golden rooster to me. You're all just roosters. What's so great about you? He added, the so-called rock-slashing Dao formula is just bullshit. The Dao I create in the future will definitely make old golden rooster blush with shame. He'll feel that his so-called rock-slashing Dao formula is just bullshit. Everyone present was shocked by Chu Yang's words. Someone actually dared to look down on a saint like this. How much courage did he have? Wild dog, you deserve to die. Liu Yunpeng couldn't bear it anymore. I'll let you deeply feel the terror of the rock-slashing Dao formula. I'll make you tremble and die. Rock-slashing Dao formula, transcendence. I've finally used it. Chu Yang let out a long sigh. At this moment, the aura he felt before began to surge again. Perhaps it was because Liu Yunpeng's cultivation base had improved, or perhaps it was because Liu Yunpeng had just used it once, but he already understood the key points. This time, he used it very quickly. Rumble. Suddenly, Chu Yang was drowned by a mighty force. The yin and yang forces in his body were activated and surged out. Amidst the loud noise, the image of a vast ocean appeared. His entire body was trapped in the image, and he was like a Kuan fish in the North Sea. The Kuan Peng controls the power of yin and the power of yang, and so do I. Killing me is like killing the Kuan Peng. Chu Yang understood in an instant. There was no need for him to react. The yin and yang forces in his body, as well as the world forces of Heavenly Soul World and Myriad God World, as soon as they were attacked, they immediately counterattacked, resisting the transcendent force of the rock-slashing Dao formula. This scene suddenly appeared. Not to mention the others, even Liu Yunpeng was shocked. He looked at this scene in astonishment. With his own strength, it was impossible for him to create such a grand scene. Wild dog, could it be that his Akuan Peng? The transcendent force is acting on him, causing such a change. Liu Yunpeng naturally felt the mighty force in Chu Yang's body that resisted the transcendent force. His eyelids twitched violently. This was completely beyond his imagination. Chu Yang also completely exceeded his imagination. Soon, he felt that the power surging out of his body was too terrifying. Especially the world forces of Heavenly Soul World and Myriad God World, the power that erupted from the fourth style of the rock-slashing Tao formula was like a firefly trying to shake the sun and moon. TCH, I've been waiting for nothing. Liu Yunpeng's level is not high enough. How can he help me achieve a minor transcendent force? This young master is blind this time. Chu Yang's hopes were dashed, and he was extremely depressed. Boom. The power of the fourth style of the rock-slashing Tao formula was quickly extinguished, and it rushed towards Liu Yunpeng. Liu Yunpeng was like a small boat in the middle of a vast ocean, unable to resist at all. He spat out a mouthful of blood, and his body cracked open as he was flung away. You're Akuan Peng, right? My grandson's level is not high enough. Let me kill you. A voice suddenly appeared. No one knew where it came from, but it resounded in everyone's ears like rolling thunder, majestic like the might of the heavens, suffocating everyone. Sage Rock. Chapter 1464. What? You're only afraid now? In the sky, space-time ripples spread out. Immediately, everyone saw a light figure breaking through space and appearing in front of Chu Yang with a single step. The old man in the light figure had eyes like heavenly blades. His gaze was as cold as the edge of a blade. It was extremely frightening. Sage Peng. Sage Peng had personally arrived. Immediately, the entire place fell into a dead silence. After someone knelt down, the rest of the people followed suit and knelt down. Chu Yang immediately wanted to get closer, but the smile on his face was stiff. He couldn't smile at all. However, other than this, he couldn't find any other way. Fight. What a joke. Even if he possessed the Destiny Twins' martial soul, both of them were completely embodied in the Tao that he had created. It was already strenuous for him to deal with Liu Yunpeng, let alone a sage. The only way was to beg for mercy. However, he didn't even have the chance to speak. Transcend. Sage Rock's huge hand came crashing down on Chu Yang. At that moment, he felt that the mighty power that Sage Rock was exerting was like heaven and earth compared to the power that Liu Yunpeng displayed previously. Liu Yunpeng used the Peng/Tao art. The power he used was like a worm, enveloping him. It was like a worm wriggling on his body. As for Sage Peng, when he used it, Chu Yang was like a mortal facing a lightning tribulation. The power of a sage, fuck. Chu Yang only felt that after being struck by lightning, the lightning was wreaking havoc on his body in a frenzy. Crackling sounds could be heard, and he seemed to have died in an instant. His whole body was charred black, and the smell of burnt flesh was emitting from his body. Resist my ass, die early and be buried early. He didn't resist. It was useless for him to resist the power of a sage. Naturally, he didn't give up. This time, he really planned to transcend. The strongest weapon in his hand was the power of laws of the heavenly spirit world and the God's world. Unfortunately, he didn't activate it at all. So, he gave up. Anyway, he killed the two of them first. They would erupt even if he didn't do anything. As expected, after the yin and yang forces were completely severed, the forces of the two worlds fought against the saint energy. In Chu Yang's body, the heavenly spirit world and the myriad god world's phantoms appeared, madly devouring and consuming the saint energy. Chu Yang was also in a miserable state. The great tremors shook him until his bones were broken and his tendons snapped. His internal organs ruptured, and his situation was terrible to the extreme. However, he couldn't do anything now. Perhaps he could still laugh. Then he smiled. He smiled, showing his white teeth. He had heard that people who laughed often had good luck. He felt that this sentence was very reasonable. Humans were animals that could be infected, And happiness was even more contagious. There was a saying that went, "Don't hit a smiling person." A happy person, a person who always had a smile on his face, such a person would not be too annoying, and people would instinctively like to be with such a person. If it was someone who liked to laugh, his happiness would also make the other party happy. Naturally, his luck wouldn't be too bad. Not bad, can you still laugh now? Sage Peng's voice was very cold, making people's hearts palpitate. But when everyone looked at Chu Yang, they saw that he was really showing 8 teeth under the sun, smiling so brightly and happily. Suddenly, they couldn't help but be stunned. At this time, he could still laugh. Everyone was really shocked. If it were them, they wouldn't even have time to cry. How could they laugh? In everyone's eyes, to be able to laugh at this time was definitely a kind of ability, a kind of great ability. Chapter 1465. Waha, Pit Chu is truly worthy of being Pit Chu. The parrot also laughed out loud, he is truly worthy of being my master. Even if he dies laughing. How many difficulties can there be in the world? How can I not be happy? Death is nothing. A saint, the other party was a saint. The parrot was also in complete despair. However, Chu Yang's smile cheered it up and made it incomparably excited. It calmly faced death, looked down on everything, and transcended all sorrows and hardships. How free and easy was that? How ironic. Laughing at all the people in the world who can't see past it, laughing at all the people in the world who are ridiculous. So what if it's a saint? So what if it's death? How can it stop me from laughing? On the road to the Yellow Springs, no matter how gloomy the clouds are, I want it to be filled with laughter. Hearing the parrot's laughter and curses, Kui Shinhu and the other two couldn't help but laugh loudly. Eastern Wilderness, you are indeed the pride of the Eastern Wilderness. How many people in the world can be like you? The world is turbid, only you and I are clear and awake. The saint is nothing. Everyone present was shocked by the heroism of Chu Yang and the others. They were not afraid of death, they were not afraid of the saint. At this time, they were still laughing and cursing. How arrogant, but how inspiring. Many people couldn't help but admire Chu Yang, the parrot, Kui Shinhu, and the others. If it were them, they might not be able to do it. Even if Chu Yang was their family, they would at most silently endure the humiliation and vow to take revenge. Most of them felt that it was impossible for them to be so hot-blooded, to go through life and death together, and still dare to stand up in the face of a saint. Ha. Chu Yang originally blamed the parrot and the others in his heart. They shouldn't have stood up and courted death, but now there was only pride in his heart. Ha. He couldn't stop laughing. Everyone, take a look at what kind of brothers I, Chu Yang, have made, and what kind of friends. There are many dog-meat friends in the world, but when disaster comes, they all shrink back. Who can be as lucky as Chu Yang, and who can be as proud as I, Chu Yang? It's hard to find a bosom friend in life. I, Chu Yang, have a group of brothers to send me off. Even if I die, I will laugh as I enter the Yellow Springs. Ha. Ji Yinmeng looked at the laughing Chu Yang, and her eyes suddenly blurred. At this moment, Chu Yang was nothing like the bastard who had dealt with her that day. He laughed wantonly in front of the saint, looked down on life and death, and was not afraid of anything. He was full of manliness and was like a completely different person. Which one is you bastard? Ji Yinmeng felt very complicated now. She was so nervous that her palms were sweating, but there was nothing she could do. Rock Sage looked at Chu Yang, then at Kui Shinhu and the others, and then at the parrot. However, he was immediately poked by the parrot's wing and scolded. What are you looking at? What's so great about being a saint? Do you still have the face to attack a junior? I circle #yuan %%, I cross #yuan %%. The scolding made Rock Sage angry. Rock Sage's eyes that were like heavenly blades suddenly became sharper. However, the cowardly parrot scolded even more fiercely. Your grandpa, this divine bird is wrong. Give Chu Hang some time. What bullshit saint, Chu Hang can crush you with one finger. In front of him, you are just an ant at most. Ant, the parrot actually compared a saint to an ant. Not to mention the others, even Chu Yang was frightened. He did not care about his own safety and scolded the parrot, "Little bitch, shut up." Then, Chu Yang cupped his fists and said to Rock Sage, "Junior greets the saint. Today, my junior has angered you, and you want to kill me." Chu Yang knows that his skills are not as good as yours, but he paused and pointed at the parrot and the others. "Senior, they are just children, lowly people. You are a great person, so don't mind their disrespect." "Humph." Rock Sage sneered, "Weren't you very arrogant just now? Didn't you say you could laugh as you enter the Yellow Springs?" Chapter 1466. This was indeed Chu Yang's opinion. If one didn't have an extraordinary breadth of mind, they wouldn't dare to kill Kuan Peng and create their own great Tao. They would be known as the craziest gold rock in history. Without this boldness, it was impossible to create a Tao art like Peng slashing Tao art. Haha. Peng Saint couldn't help but laugh when he heard this. He looked at Chu Yang and said, "I never thought that there would be someone who understands me in this world. No wonder you could defeat my grandson with a raise of your hand and play with him like a dog." He didn't even realize it. Everyone was shocked. Peng Saint's evaluation of Chu Yang was very high. It wasn't just high, it was very high. Hee. Chu Yang was completely relieved. Even though this Saint Peng could be a petty person and extremely narrow-minded, he proved that he was right in the end. How could the Saint Peng who created the Tao technique of beheading Peng be petty? He smiled and said, "Senior, I'm just going to learn from you." Everyone quickly realized that the situation was not right. How did Chu Yang and Peng Sheng become close friends despite the difference in age? Peng Saint's voice suddenly became cold and murderous. "Are you trying to sell yourself to me?" Haha. Chu Yang laughed loudly again. He was trying to lure Liu Yunpeng into using the fourth move of Peng slashing Tao art. He was indeed belittling Peng Saint. This was the truth, but he didn't explain. "Senior." He just laughed and said, "If I don't sell myself to you, how can I be called arrogant? In this world, I don't know many people who can catch my eye, so I can only sell myself to you. Do you think I'm a fool?" Peng Saint sneered. "You played with my grandson and kept provoking him. Wasn't it to make him use the fourth move of Peng slashing Tao art so that you could take the opportunity to cultivate it?" Chu Yang shrugged and spread his hands with a sinister smile. "Senior, I'm just that smart. Come and hit me." Everyone facepalmed and were momentarily confused. Chu Yang actually dared to speak to a saint in such a manner. "Come and hit me then." Didn't he know how hateful this sentence was? It would be strange if he couldn't be beaten to death. This damned bastard, does he still not know how to stop? Ji Yinmeng gritted his teeth, wishing he could bite Chu Yang to death. What kind of situation was this? He actually dared to provoke a saint. Rock Sage was stunned for a moment before he couldn't help but laugh out loud. "Haha, little dog, you're really crazy. Ever since I was born, no one has ever dared to say such words to me. You are the first one who dares to provoke me like this." The consequences were very serious. Ji Yinmeng couldn't help but worry so much that her heart was about to break. "Hehe, senior, this is my honor. Also, I'm just that cheap. If you don't even meet a cheap person like me in your Pengsheng, wouldn't your Pengsheng be too boring?" Chu Yang was very proud of himself, as if he didn't know what kind of consequences his actions would cause. His appearance made Ji Yinmeng grind her teeth. She felt as if the world was about to collapse and the end of the world was about to come. "What Pengsheng? Although you're right, can't you use better words? Such a bastard, it seems like there's really no hope." Ji Yinmeng was in complete despair. Ji Yinyin was also completely convinced. Her brother-in-law who was about to die was too powerful. Even she wouldn't dare to do this. As for the people, they felt that it was strange that there was such a strange person like Chu Yang in this world. It was fine if he called himself a cheap person, but he actually proudly called himself a cheap person in front of a saint. What they couldn't accept was that Chu Yang had a proud face and was proud of being cheap. Chapter 1467. Slut. While everyone was speechless, Sage Peng's sharp eyes actually emitted a clanging sound like a sword. He suddenly sneered and looked at Chu Yang. You just finished acting crazy and now you want to act cheap in front of me? The entire crowd fell silent. Although no one was surprised by this, Sage Peng's anger still shocked them. If it was anyone else, they probably wouldn't be able to laugh anymore. However, after Chu Yang's heart thumped, he still smiled and said, "You're right, I'm acting cheap right now." If this was the old thing's test and he was scared like this, he would be exposed. That would be too lacking in character and style. He would definitely be looked down upon by the old thing. Chu Yang's thoughts were probably like this. Are you going to say that I'm acting cheap again? What can you do? If you have the ability, come and bite me. Sage Peng's words were as cold as ice. His killing intent was dense, causing the surroundings to rapidly freeze. Everyone felt as if they had fallen into an ice cave in an instant. Sage Peng's face was filled with anger, faintly covered in a layer of frost. Chu Yang really couldn't judge this old man's thoughts, let alone his character. He couldn't make up his mind and his heart was beating like a drum. Some great figures could joke with him, but if he did that to some great figures, it would only arouse their disgust and disgust. It was no different from seeking death. If I die, then I die. Maybe I'll be lucky and guess right. How can I doubt my own intelligence and my own judgment right now? Chu Yang was filled with apprehension. He believed his own intuition and stubbornly persisted in going about things the wrong way. He continued to smile and say, "Senior, how did you know? I originally said, if you have the ability, come and hit me." After hearing this sentence, you actually thought of this sentence. He added, "Actually, if you have the ability, come and bite me is actually more emotional." You even know that this sentence is more emotional. Everyone was truly convinced by Chu Yang. In front of a sage, he actually dared to be so impudent. "Humph, biting you is like an ant. Are you worthy? It's over." The voice in Ji Yinmeng's heart, the voice in everyone's heart. Hearing Peng Sheng's bone-chilling voice again, he felt as if a cold wind was blowing on his face. He couldn't help but shiver. Everyone believed that Chu Yang was dead for sure. There was no suspense. Trying to steal a chicken but failing, this was not as simple as losing the rice. Of course, there were also many people who sneered, such as Liu Yunpeng and Xia Wanjin. They felt that Chu Yang was really acting recklessly and thought too highly of himself. You're just an ant, yet you're delusional enough to think that you have the right to joke around with a saint. Chu Yang was still smiling, and his smile was still very bright. It was gambling, and there would always be losses. At most, he would be a good man again after 18 years. If we're talking about unworthy, it should be Senior who's unworthy. As soon as he said this, many people couldn't help but feel their hearts skip a beat. This had nothing to do with personal preference. "Senior, I'm definitely not inferior to you. Do you believe me?" He was still provoking them. Not to mention the others, even the parrot was completely speechless by Chu Yang. He shouted in his heart, "Chu Hang, this is not a hopeless case. This is a sea of bitterness that knows no bounds. Repent and the shore is at hand." The parrot and the others were also shocked. "Kid, wait until you come back to life, then you'll have the right to say such words to me." "Haha, Senior, is this a difficult matter?" Chu Yang laughed loudly and was extremely arrogant. "I invite Senior to turn on the viewing mode and see my elegance." You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.